hold my breath while I, like, walk past a store like that. Like, I can't even, like, go past it.
Yeah, me too. For some reason, I have a bad sense of smell, but really strong sense like that will, like, just make me feel terrible.
It always pisses me off when some lady at work is having to talk to me about, we think you smell bad.
Yeah.
And I really want to be like,
I think
that you smell bad and you paid to smell this way.
Yeah.
This is just my body doing its thing.
Yeah, I'm supposed to smell like this.
Yeah. That's
you smell like
office people.
The Joker.
Yeah, have like a different,
my mom used
sense of body
to. The worst. Sometimes just like getting in the car with when I was a kid, like getting in the car after my mom had just put on perfume was like really bad. But also sometimes my mom would be like redoing her fingernail polish, like removing polish and then putting new stuff on. Yeah. So it's just like what is it, acetone, and then nail polish smell, just like in this enclosed area.
That's fucked up.
And I was just like, why? Oh my god, why are you doing this to me?
I love nail polish remover. I like gasoline too, though. Like
I do like it. I like some of those chemical smells, but
I don't, but I could.
If you're in an enclosed space with it, it's pretty
no.
I can't fuck with any smell like that.
You're just like no smells.
Should we start?
Yeah, we did start.
Oh, good.
Hey,
we
everyone.
did?
Hi.
Yeah, welcome to Wolfe Pack.
Hey everyone, we think you stink. In a
good.
literal sense.
Not a problem with it. Alright, which chapters do we do? I read them all like a week ago.
16 through 24?
Yeah, or 17 through 24.
I also did do what I was gonna say and read way past where our section is, but I didn't make it as far as I wanted to.
Our section encompassed the totality of Severian's parenthood.
Oh yeah, it's true.
So we're on
that brief time that he had a child.
The one time he was a dad.
I will say, like,
great.
the part where little Severian, like, gets burnt.
Yeah.
Or whatever he wants.
He gets fried.
Is like one of the scenes of this whole series that just is constantly stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
It's like
that's
one of
the point that you texted me,
It's
right?
one of the scenes that. No, I was texting you after that happened.
You texted me, I love Teflon, but I thought you texted me about Little Severian.
Oh, maybe I did.
Too.
It's an incredible
But it's like,
chapter.
it sticks out in, like, if I were to think about these books when I'm not reading them, and there's, like, bits that come out in my mind, like, scenes-wise, like, that's a scene that's, like, seared into my brain.
Yeah, I feel like this book actually has, like, a handful of those, but that's definitely, one as well, and I feel like that whole
Every
section...
time it's about to happen, I'm like, it's about to happen, about to happen.
I know, and reading it now, I notice all the foreshadowing that, like, Severian, like, lays down, like, on the way. He's, like, so concerned, like, when they're first going in, like, there's gonna be a trap here, there's gonna be a trap here, and then eventually he, like, lets his guard down, he's like, oh yeah, go run ahead, boy, and then, like, the kid frees himself. Yeah.
Is the whole thing... Now, I don't think it's just an allegory, but it's... Like, reading it this time, it was hard for me not to feel like there was an allegory to be had there really easily, and that they're going after gold, and that the little kid is the one who dies.
For sure.
Even though the little kid is not even really interested in the gold as itself, it's merely this
shiny object.
Yeah, it's this thing that they're like, if we get there, maybe things will get better.
Right.
Like, maybe we'll get water if we go where the shiny thing is. And then, I guess I'd never read it before as like a little parable about ambition or something, but that's how it came out to me this time.
It is funny, too, that Severian sets it up that way, where he even convinces himself that, like, well, if we go up there, there'll be water there.
Right.
They're like, really?
Right.
What?
Why?
Yeah, like he's
like
he's
in
so
every
practical.
other instance that you've been outside of civilization, your whole MO is like, if I go down, I'll find water. And now he's like,
he literally
if I just
says
go find that, if I go to the gold thing.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
So something, while I was reading that part, or like towards the end, I realized maybe I missed it. He said something about how he's going north, he's going up, because he thinks he'll, like, get away from the Demarchi or whatever, right? Like, but why is he climbing a mountain? Does he ever explain why he's climbing a mountain?
Well, I think he's saying he's staying at higher altitudes because like because it's cold and weird, and most of the people are like down in the valley.
But he's going so high.
It does seem like he's going out of his way, but he generally is trying to go north, right?
But also
He wants
stay
to,
at a high altitude.
Yeah.
I think, except when he
Also,
like has to dip down.
It's like in
He had never
Skyrim
seen
when
the
you try to
mountains.
like go over a mountain
What?
to get.
He'd
to
never
something.
seen them.
Right. So you think that
mountains.
you don't think that there's like, I didn't really think this through, but it's like, why, I don't know, why was he up, it wasn't like, okay, he's going here because he wants to give the claw to the Pelorines, or he's like going here, supposedly, like, I guess it makes sense. It just seems like he's going very, very far out of his way, and he's not like, here is my goal.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that statement is an oxymoron.
What?
That he's going far out of his way and he has no goal.
Right.
I do feel like
That's a
he's
good
kind
point,
of just
yeah.
wandering at some
Yeah,
point and like
yeah.
hoping
Yeah.
for a lucky break.
But like,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that could make sense because he has had this weird thing happen. He doesn't really. He could like sort of has a goal. He's thinking about going north, staying out of the way.
Going to the moon.
It does make yeah. It does
Right.
make sense with like going up.
Eventually.
Yeah, I guess it's just getting out of the way.
I definitely-
He just did this like fucked up thing.
Hiding in the mountains is a great way to avoid.
There
I
is
think
kind of
his
like a
main
wandering
thing
sense
is
to
just
it all.
trying to not get in trouble.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it does seem like he's wandering, and also like he's literally is just walking through the woods and over a mountain. Like he doesn't like know where he's going.
Yeah.
Or what he's doing.
Like north is not a way to find the Pelorines. You
Yeah,
know,
I guess
like I don't.
He's following
Well-
Ceres.
Well,
he's
it-
saying they're in
they're at the war.
Orithia.
Mm-hmm.
Which I kind of think maybe he has a little bit of a mind to go to the war. I think.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think he thinks that the Pelorines are. Does he not know that the Pelorines are in the war zone?
No, didn't
I thought she
somebody
told
just-
him
didn't
that.
Syriaca tell him that?
I think Syriaca told
But
him.
I don't think that's his only reason. I kind of think that
He wants to get
at
into
this
it.
point is like a young man who's run away from home and is like, I gotta
to
do
join
something
up.
with my life. I'm gonna
Go forth.
gain glory.
Because the fourth book does start like all of a sudden he just like I was in the war, like here I am at the war and it sucks or something. I can't remember like how he talks about it.
Oh,
but
it's all battles or living beasts.
yeah.
that
He
stalk
says like
around.
the
right,
beginning
yeah.
of the fourth book is like really beautiful. Like I don't know, these like really like interesting. He's just like musing about war. And
Yeah,
about, like,
where like the hillsides are elevated
Yeah,
to like
yeah.
prominence and stuff like that. Yeah, that is good.
Which, when he's describing that, it makes me think of the Civil War.
Yeah.
It makes me think of people who love the Civil War.
You think Gene loves the Civil War?
I would not be surprised.
I feel like I heard a good quote once where it's like there's a certain point in every
War of
man's
aggression.
life when he starts to get into like the history of war.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Yeah.
true.
It's
There's,
usually
like,
one specific war. it
right.
seems
Yeah,
like, but-
there's like like the
Just like-
Civil War is often the ones that
Like
dudes
you
get into.
Yeah, I
in
like
America.
the Roman ones.
Yeah.
The Roman ones are sick. They're real easy to understand. You don't gotta really know that much about like technology.
Right.
You know, the new ones.
Well,
New ones are like-
Gene likes the Greek ones, I think, right?
I think he's
Alright.
But the Peloponnesian War is the one that Latro set against. And actually, the beginning of Latro and the Mist is startlingly like the beginning of the book that we aren't even reading yet, so I won't talk about it now.
Speaking of, am I being a nerd if I like suggest we like kind of like rewind a little bit and
Oh,
like
please.
kind of go
Please
through
do.
it?
You
forward?
definitely
Yes,
are.
Yes,
Yeah.
and with all.
A good, I mean,
Yes.
a good nerd, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
Good nerd.
That's a
Okay.
good. There's a good nerd.
Okay. Be a good nerd, my boy, and suggest that we rewind a little bit.
Yeah, we have to go back to
Okay, I think this
Casdo's house, right?
Sword of the Lictor.
Casdo.
Yeah.
Casdo. Right. So we ended with him with the showdown with the Elzabo in Casdo's house.
As you
All right.
escaping through the thatch.
with her knife.
And so the next morning, Casdo's like, "We're leaving, but I'll make you breakfast." He was like, "Good. I'll wait out here for it. Give it to me." It's weird.
Just like wait outside for your breakfast. Like, I'm not going to be around you, but I will take
No,
your
but
food.
his thing was that he was gonna like leave that house or whatever, and he had made this oath to the Alzabo, which is like
Right.
this is a
It's
thing about
interesting.
Severian where he always makes these oaths and then immediately after is like, I'm not really gonna keep that though.
Mm-hmm.
But he'll make like one gesture towards it.
Uh-huh.
And
Like,
then
that's
he'll be
good.
like,
That's enough.
every time he makes an oath, he immediately afterwards is like,
Yeah.
And
you know,
that's
and then he's like, but I've broken all the other oaths I've ever taken, and you're like, true.
Yeah.
that's something I'm
Except one.
But he keeps making them though. It's
aware
weird.
of.
It's a weird thing.
I feel like Gene Wolfe
Except
is this is like a bigger idea, but I feel like over this section and also like everything we've read in this book so far, this section of the Book of the New Sun, is that like looking at Severian as like a hero character, and of course he's like full of contradictions. I feel like for Gene Wolfe it was important that Severian was constantly going back and forth about oaths, about heroism, about his ideas, about like if he cares about these people. And I feel like I see a lot of passages throughout these whole sections where he's like reflecting like, do I care about this kid? Do I care about Kasdo? Do I really want to protect them? Do I really want to get involved in this fight? Like he's like, which is like compare that to like a Tolkien hero who's just like, I am fighting for the forces of good. And I feel like Gene Wolfe is responding to those kind of like archetypes specifically. And it's like why he's developing this sort
Does
of douchebag.
Aragorn ever doubt himself? What is that?
Maybe a little bit, but it would be like a very pointed point of doubt if he did.
You don't
know?
get a whole lot of like internality on
Like,
like
the movies
Aragorn.
probably
Like,
get more.
Aragorn's psychology is pretty like
Ineffable.
yeah. Well, I mean it's barely there. Right?
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
Right.
But,
Yeah, like the movies might add more shades of dimension to the characters.
Yeah.
but
They
I feel
definitely do. They
reading-
add in the whole love story,
Yeah,
which is
right,
just
yeah. Are we-
mentioned in an appendix.
Right, like a sentence somewhere. Yeah.
Johnston's asking where the video stream is.
YouTube?
He said he must be watching it because he said he saw me walk by.
oh.
Okay.
Yeah, Aaron Estes is on there talking to us.
Hey, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
He texted me.
Ronsky.
This scene is really like on just this first page of the chapter
Chapter 17.
where she's like, bring me my breakfast. It's kind of like obviously like it's kind of like why can't I think of the person's name? It's like a movie. It's like a dumb movie. It's like a
Drop
Quentin
Dead Fred?
Tarantino movie or something where it's like,
Oh.
all right, like put my gun on the table, bring me my breakfast now.
Yeah,
Like, I'm a big like
Yeah.
a western or something.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, mhm. Yeah.
I'm a big shitty man.
Yeah, like
Exactly.
he
Big
pulls
shitty
that
man
out. Like,
trope.
I'm
Yeah.
sure people are always terrified of him because he's like horrific, but like usually he's just like, I'm Severian, whatever. If we are to believe him, but then the times where he's like busts out the like, I could kill all of you right now to do exactly what I'm saying, or like that time, yeah, like at the guard tower or whatever where that is, where he's just like, I don't know, I'm Severian, and then he's like, I don't know, you should like beat that guy up, and he's like, okay. And he's
Show him who you are.
Yeah.
And he's just like, BAM! The guy falls
He
down.
he loves doing it, or like when he gets excited when he cuts someone's head off and stuff, like
Oops, sorry.
Yeah.
And then
like he
runs
knows
around the stage with
he
it.
knows what his fucking deal is. It's not like, I don't know, the end.
Yeah.
That's all I have to
He
say.
is incredibly guilty about the deal he made with the Alzabo. He continually
He thinks
brings it
about
up
it a lot.
to Kasdo even
Yeah.
to be like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that if you would have brought me the light.
Yeah, he does keep talking about it.
It's such a little boy thing. where
Weirdly
he can't let it go.
obsessive about it.
Because he knows
Yeah.
it makes no sense. Like,
Yeah.
he knows that
It's
that's
okay.
completely unwarranted.
But then he
Like,
breaks
Can
it
see what I
down.
mean.
So like he promises the Alzabo that he's leaving the house. But of course, in his mind, he's like, but I'm not necessarily going to abandon those two. But then
Except
he's
when they're
also
actually being attacked,
abandoning
he's-
them.
Yeah.
he's not
So he's
really
following them
gonna
from a
do anything.
distance, being a weirdo, and then when they're
Yeah.
actually attacked, he has this moment
Like,
of
oh,
doubt.
should I do anything?
Right, like whoa, and then
He's a weenie.
And then the kid's like, you
That's
came
the
and
word.
helped right away, right? And he's like, yeah.
yeah.
By the way, though, just going back to a thing we were just talking about, he does at some point in this book he does say what one of the secrets is.
What? When? I don't recall.
Well, it's not in this section. I think it's later. But he does
But you
He
can tell
doesn't
me
say-
the secret.
Yes, which is it's that torturers obey. That's one of the secrets. He tells you one of the secrets.
Wait,
And
how
he
does
really
that
does
work?
live there.
Because he says it. He's like, I'm about to just let you guys know real quick.
Whoa. Is that something
And
what we
what
read?
a secret
No.
it is.
Oh.
It's because I've been reading ahead.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But he does. He breaks that one.
Interesting.
Even though he doesn't necessarily tell you all of them. He's told you one.
But I think he does mention that in other times that he's just like, we just follow orders, we just do.
No, but this one is like, I'm going to tell you one of the secrets
Right.
now.
So it's
And
possible
this is
that
what it
he's
is.
revealed other secrets, but not said like this is one of our secrets.
Possible.
Right?
But I would argue that that's not revealing the secret.
Right.
Especially this kind
Exactly,
of
because you're
secret.
not saying that it's a secret, but
Right.
like I'm just saying that they're there for. They might be there for us to see.
And now that you mention it, I think they probably are. I think.
And it does seem to be Wolfe's way, is to not ask a question without
Giving the
seeding
answer.
somewhere,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like a possible answer.
Right. He'll ask a question, give a direction.
Yeah.
There might not be an answer.
Yeah, I see
But
no point
there's a
in there
direction.
being a secret of the torturers and it not being somewhere in here. I just see no point.
Decipherable in some way.
Yeah.
If anybody out there has any secrets, you can just
Yeah.
mention them in the chat.
Comment.
Or
below.
torture methods you found good on your own.
Particularly
in
effective.
your extracurricular torture practices.
How about these zoanthropes? That's
Oh
a
my
pretty
God,
cool
those guys.
concept.
That's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's
Because
like-
at first it's like, oh, feral men, and then it turns out that it's a fucking plastic surgery.
Yeah. So they pay for it, and then someone
it's
removes
it's an elective lobotomy. I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just leaves them with the rest of them or something.
Yeah,
Just
go
in the
run.
woods.
I
That's
gotta
so
say,
much.
I can understand.
But
Totally,
then if they have
absolutely.
kids, they're just
Totally,
regular
100%.
people,
Right. Yeah.
And then they
Yeah.
just don't live very long
Yeah.
because
Brutal.
that's not the life that they're supposed to be living.
Brutal.
Yeah. That was really cool when you brought that up.
Well, it's
You
sort
think
of
the
like
Gene was mad at his mom when he wrote that?
it's a really passive way. It's a really weird passive way of killing yourself.
Yeah, you
'Cause
think
you're
that's
like,
what
you
how
know
Gene
that's what's
feels
gonna
about being
happen.
born into normal people.
Yeah.
He's like, I was born this advanced being amongst
Yeah,
a bunch of
my
apes.
parents are
Oh my god.
primitive.
I
ape
shouldn't
people.
have survived.
I was thinking about the children of back to landers, people who go in the
Oh.
70s,
Oh, yeah.
go off to
Well-
start a farm even though they have no background in farming, and then they
Ruby Ridge.
Ruby Ridge
That's what those people were like.
before
What's
the
Ruby Ridge?
gunplay.
Right.
I don't know if I know about Ruby.
Ruby Ridge is some people were homesteading, and it was just like one family was homesteading and collecting up guns in Oregon, and then they visited.
Oh, wait,
these,
that thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The FBI came.
Prelude
shot
to Waco.
Yeah,
Oh right, okay.
and that was one of the things that what's his name, Oklahoma City dude was
Mhm.
specifically.
Mhm.
Did he pick the day of the Ruby Ridge shooting to do his bomb?
I think it was the anniversary of Waco. I thought,
Oh, okay.
but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They're all
Waco
connected.
They are all connected. And Gore Vidal became a good friend to Timothy McVeigh at the end of his life. He was
Weird.
going to visit him a lot.
I mean,
Well.
some of his complaints were extremely valid. I don't think that you should blow up a building, but
Well, I think I kind of got the impression that Vidal didn't think that we knew the actual story. He's
okay.
I don't know if he ever.
In a conspiratorial way,
yeah,
or missing
yeah.
pieces.
I think Vidal didn't think that I have to look up exactly what he said, but he talked a little bit about his relationship with McVeigh and was kind of cryptic and kind of made it sound like he was like, I go visit this dude in jail because his life is completely fucked up and nothing that anyone thinks about him is true.
Whoa.
Hmm.
I think he was brain controlled or something.
Maybe something like that.
I mean, it's not outside of the realm of possibility.
I mean, it would make sense to me that
I mean, basically nothing is beyond the realm of
Yeah,
the possibility that the
absolutely.
CIA and the military would do. For sure.
Totally.
and if you look at the way that they
We
set
can all
up,
agree on that.
they set up
Obviously.
Islamic dudes now smart.
Right.
You know, they get like kind of slow, maladjusted guys who they can like steer into a ridiculous plot and then arrest them.
There's a really good episode of Citations Needed about that, about fake like ISIS plots, and like
Cool.
so many of. It's a really good media criticism podcast.
It is good. Yeah.
But they have
Listen to
a
that.
really good episode about that will blow your fucking mind about, and because the stats about how many, because the way they approach it is like a media criticism lens, so it's like all the media reports on it and says like FBI like thwarts ISIS plot or whatever, but they don't say in the article that the FBI created the ISIS plot and it wasn't actually connected to ISIS in any way, so it's not an actual ISIS plot.
Yeah. No.
It's like an FBI agent goes in and impersonates an ISIS member, finds like usually like really vulnerable people, a lot of times like homeless people or like slightly
Learning disabilities.
mentally
They're big on
yeah.
They're big on those guys.
Like just totally like vulnerable people. It's totally COINTELPRO, but it's like you also it is in the sense where you're like starting the Black Panther.
The goal in this case is
their
to
cell
juke
before
stats.
it starts itself, but the FBI starting so that it can shut it down before it even starts.
But
And then they can juke their stats and say, look what Homeland Security is achieving.
Right.
And
that's
then
security
the
more
media
fun.
Every other
just, like,
level
parrots
of law
the-
enforcement, that's called entrapment and not allowed.
Right, exactly.
But it's pretty much the only way that they've caught like ISIS and Al Qaeda conspirators here is by giving them the bomb and then arresting them.
Right, and that person has literally actually no connection to ISIS.
Right.
They only have a connection to fake ISIS FBI people.
Yeah. So
It's
I
like,
think-
what the fuck? You're not, like, you create this thing and then you thwart it, but it's not reported on that way. It's reported like
that would be a
FBI
sick fucking
thwarts
book
ISIS
to write.
plot.
That would be a cool story.
Good
right there.
episode.
You know-
Good episode of that podcast. Recommend.
There's so many offices that I've worked in where that's exactly how people get promotions.
Yeah.
They create a problem and solve the problem.
Sure.
And people are like, wow, you're a real problem solver.
And Chris
Yeah.
Morris's next movie is about this thing, but it's with a guy in the Caribbean. I'm gonna say it's in Haiti or Dominican Republic or something. It's a similar story about it, like the FBI setting up a guy down there. So there'll be a movie about it soon, and hopefully it'll be good.
But like the main point of that podcast is to like analyze how the media specifically like just tells this story
Yeah, like
to the
media
masses.
tropes, media narratives, breaking
Yeah.
down media narratives.
Yeah,
So
and
my-
media is fucked up.
My theory about McVeigh, or to bring this in, is that
Sorry.
if this is how they're doing it now, sloppy, to where we can see how like poorly done this is, I feel like we've gone through a time when, with all the Homeland Security like kind of rubber stamping, that people, like the people organizing these things, the FBI and intelligence communities, have gotten lazier because they don't have to like uphold a standard that you used to have to uphold. So it makes sense to me that Timothy McVeigh was a product of an intelligence culture that was trying really hard, and that as we've come past on the other side of 9/11 to today, you don't require that amount of effort. So now I could see them on the same continuum, and maybe even put Sirhan at like the far end of like when this was really important to like figure out how to manipulate people this way.
Yeah.
And then you get to Timothy McVeigh where it basically works, but there's some loose ends for someone like Gore Vidal to go in and like check out. And then to today where it's like it's just an open secret that it's not real.
Yeah.
Copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah.
But Severian.
Yeah.
Also, who's
Wait, how did we get...
Who's 667-217-7042?
That'd be me. Did you just get a text from me?
Yeah.
That's my new number.
Oh, cool.
You should just be getting one from me too.
Also, you just put Ryan's number on the internet.
Oh, yeah, forget that.
We'll erase it in post.
It's a call-in show.
Oh yeah, you can call if you would like.
Give Ryan a call. Forget his number.
Aaron might call. It's a brand new number. I texted you guys before I was leaving to see if you wanted to ride, but
My phone's been delivering texts late and out of order.
me too. And I was wondering if you had that problem because I got your same carrier.
I have that problem, but my problem, I'm 99% sure, stems from the fact that I use Signal.
No, you got one of the little babies.
Signal. What's Signal?
It's an encrypted messaging app.
Oh yeah, I just use regular.
And I think it's just bad. Signal is bad. I mean, it's cool because
People
it's
were
encrypted,
pushing
but
it real hard a couple
it's
of
cool
years
because
ago.
it's encrypted. I still use it, but it's like sometimes I get text messages really late.
I think they found some vulnerabilities in it too, where it's not like quite as it doesn't quite live up to the hype.
We just
Encrypted.
have to accept that it's gone. Like, privacy's gone.
Oh, I didn't even realize I wore my FBI shirt.
We've just lost it. It's like not. It isn't real.
Good job. I got really into this idea for a while that we were so concerned about the government surveilling us, and then it became once the internet came out,
FBI shirt.
it became important that everybody could surveil everybody, and that's how we caught the cops beating up people. Like that, we were able to have control over.
That if there's more surveillance, then we'll be able to see.
Right. If
okay, we're able to see it. So fucking what? No one who actually like can do anything to stop it. They know about it. It's not new to them. They know. Like, oh, we have more proof. Cool. Like.
Okay.
Sorry, what were you saying?
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, the proof.
It's not about the book, so.
Yeah,
the proof's not what's lacking. It's the power to like do something
exactly.
to the people that are violating our principles.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to try to make my point right now. Let's talk.
I'm
about
sorry.
the book.
Oh yeah, we actually haven't talked
I was
about
being
like
very
almost any of
dismissive
the
and
book.
rude.
It's all right.
So this whole
we got
chapter
through it.
is just them getting eaten by the Zoan
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
by
Yeah.
the vanity primitives.
The vanity.
Yeah,
primitives,
yeah, that's what they are. That's what they,
And then the El Zabo just like running in to.
Yeah. Oh, it's real nice later when he brings, like, I hadn't thought about it the way that Severian thought about it, where he's like, the dad is running to save the kids.
Mm-hmm.
But also the El Zabo is going to murder.
Yeah, that's the part I underlined that. I
From his
underlined that.
perspective-
The thing about
From Dad's perspective, he's like bringing his
Exactly.
family together.
both
Yeah.
performed the same act, and they actually performed it in the same body.
But for different
Then he's
reasons.
talking about different levels of instinct and stuff.
Yeah.
But before that happened,
Which is
I just
fucking
really
beautiful.
liked liked this part where he was talking about the about how Fetchin would have like painted the dead old man to make his embodying the dignity and futility of all human life in a misshapen head. I just thought that was like a good little.
is that on the last page?
It's on 94.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But that
is nice.
section about the instinct,
Mm-hmm.
the different like layers of consciousness or whatever, I thought was really interesting. Or like consciousness and the unconscious.
Isn't Al Zabo like does it prey exclusively on human beings, or does it eat like other animals too? Like,
That's a good
and this
question.
isn't addressed, but I'm just.
That's a good
wondering about it.
question.
Yeah. I'm just
Because like,
curious.
does it have like?
Does it have like squirrel consciousness
Yeah,
in it?
right.
You know?
Squirrel consciousness.
You mean
It's
like
like
good
different.
question? It's a good question.
Yeah.
I feel like once we get to Short Sun, there's stuff that makes me think that yes, it does eat other things, and that gets it dumber.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's an echo of exactly that in Short Sun,
Interesting.
and that, and also kind of in the Fifth
Within
Cerberus, and it's what
With the Inhumu or with the Alzheimer?
with the Inhuman.
Okay.
Oh,
And
It's
No,
a type of person.
it's a
and
thing.
this
You're talking about something
this
else.
becomes Gene
The
Wolfe's
Inhumus.
commentary on colonialism.
Like consuming consciousnesses.
That his thing about colonialism is colonists come, the autochthons, the natives, then become so much like the colonials that they can't remember that they aren't the colonials.
Yeah, that's like a whole thing in like Fifth Ed. Yeah.
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 And so, like, even if they win and kill all the colonialists,
Right.
now they just are that anyhow.
Yeah, which is really like a weird, haunting thought when you look at the United States.
Mhm.
You're like,
Or
yeah, that's-
any other,
Yeah.
most other countries.
Right. Yeah.
Too.
Yeah, most warring factions.
We live in this one.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh yes, please do.
Also, we are cut off from our history in a way that I feel like other countries aren't.
Right.
Like, in Europe, in Asia, like, people acknowledge that their country existed before the current culture, and they
Right.
could include that as a history of that land. But
Kind of,
we
but
stopped.
China's been manipulating that really hard lately.
Oh,
or I
yeah?
guess they like look back to their like classical, but yeah, I mean information control in China is a huge thing right now.
Go on, tell me more about
Great
this.
leap forward.
Well, China has their own internet system.
Right.
It's self-contained, and there's only certain things you can look at, and it has there's only certain photographs that are allowed. You know, like for all the problems in our system, at least you can pretty much find at least I think, whatever you want by like Google image searching, or you can read a Wikipedia page that supposedly, I mean, as far as we can tell, is like pretty accurate, but that's not the case in China. Like, information is like highly monitored. So people know, human beings know about, like, like
well,
the various
even things like
atrocities in
Tiananmen
China.
Square and
Right,
stuff
right.
are like completely buried.
So you're not allowed to talk about Tiananmen Square, but so people come up with like meme-ish ways now in contemporary times of like talking about things using like complex symbols in images.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is good. Because, I mean, obviously,
You
if
can
they're
make a
doing
solution
information
like that
control in
more.
China, like, our country will start doing the same thing here
For sure.
because it'll
We
be
are.
necessary to compete.
Yeah,
Which
but we
means-
do it through capitalism. So
Right.
we do it so that the
And
options you
education.
see when you search for things are the options that are paid, that pay for you to see.
You have to like,
have to, like, dig
it's
through
there,
stuff.
but you have to like really want to like.
Yeah.
I also
Dig.
think our
Yeah.
country loves for you to know things as long as you can't think about them.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
Well,
Goebbels
part of our
is-
thing is
that's like
in
the
a
whole
narrative
YPR's
sense.
whole
Part of
thing.
our thing is being like the anti-China, even though we're not.
What do you mean WIPR?
I feel like NPR enrages me because
Yeah, it
I feel like
sucks.
they try to control the goalposts of conversations, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah, they do.
like,
Okay.
and so
Yeah.
they'll talk about things, and they'll be like, well, like it's a real problem that we don't have, like
I
our
see.
healthcare system is like challenging. What are some options? And like one
And they
person will
only
be
go
like,
center right.
right, exactly.
Right.
And so they'll talk
That
about it,
dying
and
dream is
then, and then they'll big
horrible
on
at
some
that.
crazy like left wing in like person who doesn't have credibility. They'll be like, I believe in universal healthcare, and all their other like centrist neoliberal
Yeah, they just
pundits
use
are
him
like,
as a punching bag.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
That sounds interesting, but wouldn't
Is that really practical?
isn't that really practical? Like, yeah, exactly. Like, are you really recommending that we take away private insurance from every American who enjoys it currently? And then some phone caller calls in and they're like, yeah, I had diabetes and my private insurance helped me. Like, how would universal healthcare would take away my health? And then they like just distort the conversation. So they're talking about healthcare. I'm on a
If I
rant
got-
right now.
And never
Healthcare
mentioned
bothers
that
me.
The New York
healthcare
Times-
is
the New York
fucking
Times-
And it
racketeering.
should.
Yeah.
It is exactly
The New York
extortion.
Times does the same
It's
thing.
so bad.
Yeah. Oh, and
Thank you,
WAPO
thank
is
you. Oh
like
God!
the king
Look
of
at what you've done.
yeah. All
Thank you
those
for the Rice Krispie treat.
Thanks. Yeah, these streets are
A
great.
good consummate host.
But Goebbels, his whole, like, at the end of his life, he was incredibly insistent that all propaganda be true. And a big, like, pillar of his strategy was when we have bad news, we are the ones that tell them. We tell them first, and we set
Right.
the way that we're going to talk about this bad news. If there's something horrible that the German people have to know, we want them to hear it from us, and we want to hear it from us before anyone
Yeah,
else.
they
talks.
want our
Yeah.
take on it.
Get out and
Exactly.
spread that narrative.
Exactly.
And we absorbed all of Goebbels's like strategy into our own like intelligence and public relations practices in this country after World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was the model from which what we have now.
Yeah.
is
Control the
based on.
center.
Yeah.
The center.
And he was like, he's very explicit about all that shit. Of like, you got to tell the truth. If you don't tell the truth, that shit will bite you in the ass later on. So always tell the truth.
Like, even if you tell the truth at first and then talk about the truth to the point where now you're contradicting yourself with a lie, at least you told the truth first and you hooked them with that. And now
Right.
they'll believe the lie because you told the truth
Right.
first.
Totally.
Or you tell the truth about a specific thing so that you can lie about a general thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
You can
what conclusions you
extrapolate
draw. Yeah.
something entirely fictional from something that is true.
Yep.
Yeah. And it happens
Oh, man.
constantly.
Yeah.
I think that is like that's a big part of like why I'm so obsessed with like media criticism stuff.
Me too.
It's because it's like the narrative
Absolutely.
is the thing.
Yeah.
Like the way, like everyone's ostensibly reporting on an event,
Mm-hmm.
but the way that the reporting happens is so wildly different depending on like what you're reading or whatever. And then there's a consensus narrative that like all of the large media kind of just choose it, which is
Right.
whatever's
or
convenient
they
for capital.
or they choose what to amplify. So like choose what
Yeah.
events to
Yeah.
blow up, and so you make a big thing out of one thing, but you kind of downplay other things. And it's like, well, what is your like ruler for what is important? generally
Like
it's
I
part
feel
of some
like
constructed narrative.
FAIR is basically like the best resource that like anyone has.
It's
at this
for
point in this
media
country.
analysis, absolutely.
FAIR.org. It's fairness and accuracy
No,
reporting.
I-
They've been around since like the 80s. They're
It's
so
good.
good.
No idea has any value unless it's reflected by the media. Like if
Right.
if there's an idea or like a movement or a image or something that like exists around but is not reflected by the big media, then even someone who might find like personal value in that image knows that it has no currency with other people, and so it's basically not. I mean, it's like what you're saying. It's like you can know about it, but you can't think about it. It's like you have,
And you certainly can't encourage anyone else to think about it.
right, because I mean everyone will know. Like, well, but that no one else outside this room will understand that because it's not on TV. So like the media itself, even like people's earnest, honest like attempts to use it for good, end up swirling around the fucking toilet bowl because you can only use what's already there.
And everyone, and also as compounded by the fact, like it's even made more extreme by the fact that everyone only watches TV.
Right.
Yeah, TV.
Like nobody reads.
It's
Yeah.
no good.
And yeah.
I mean, I
And
literally
all of this
had
is
another-
what Severian is doing to the reader.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's actually true.
Bringing it
Yes.
back.
I also
even if you
really
do
like
read,
this
you
part
can't
where
escape it.
he's explaining the zoanthropes to little Severian.
Yeah,
and
that's
he asks,
great.
And then he's like explaining why they don't wear clothes, and then he asks him, "Are you like that a little bit?" Because he doesn't wear a shirt,
Yeah.
and you're like,
And then Severian's like, yeah, I guess I am in a way. He's like kind of
I
unfazed by
am
it.
rugged.
no, first he's like, well, it's just the rule. I follow the rule. I don't know. And then he's like, but I guess I am because I never thought about it.
But then he's like, but it's in the other direction.
Even
Like,
though
I'm
he's
way
very
too
cold.
smart or something. Is right? He's like, that's not the right way.
Very nice.
Did he put some lacroix
a
in
fig
there?
leaf.
Yeah. That was bothering me, Kenny, so I appreciate the cover up there.
I do not condone these Victorian sensibilities.
I also don't, but I do think it's funny.
It is totally funny.
Yeah.
The Victorians.
Yes.
I marked 2 paragraphs here as reread, and I
What-
didn't
where?
reread them.
You read them out loud now to
page?
us.
On 98 through 99, like, I've never been greatly sensitive to beauty.
Oh, that's the part with the instinct and the layers of instinct.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I read that the first time and then was like, what? And then just never went back to like, but is instinct truly that attachment to the person of the monarch, which Master Malrubius implied was at once the highest and lowest form of governance? For clearly, instinct itself cannot have arisen out of nothing. The hawks. Oh yeah, this is cool.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, did I miss us already talking about this?
No, we haven't talked
Okay.
about it. We just talked about the end of that part, but we haven't talked about
The
it.
hawks that soared over our heads built their nests, doubtless by instinct. Yet there must have been a time in which nests were not built. And the first hawk to build one cannot have inherited its instinct to build from its parents, since they did not possess it. That whole, like, that, I feel like that's the kind of thought that sometimes I have in the back of my head, and kind of like bothers
It
me.
feels like an Aquinian thesis for the existence of God. It's like
Right.
This
Yeah,
kind of like
for sure.
circular like unmoved mover thing.
Mm-hmm.
It also kind of seems like it's getting dangerously close to Lamarckian evolution to me.
What that?
You know, that like you inherit nest building from your parents building nests.
Right.
Like I don't think that's how nest building works.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, like at some point a hawk was like, I figured it out, like, and then
Yeah,
It's
maybe
anthropomorphizing.
That's the word that came to mind.
It
for
wasn't
me,
a
too.
scientific progression for
I
them.
anthropomorphizing is I don't think it's necessarily bad.
Yeah, but I also don't think it's necessarily true.
Right, but all understanding comes by likeness. It by itself is not a reason for something to be false.
Sure.
I mean, you're basically making an assumption that humans and animals exist across a gulf that cannot be crossed, which is not something we know for sure. Anthropomorphizing them is only necessarily wrong in that case, in which we share nothing in common with them.
I don't feel like I'm claiming that anthropomorphizing is wrong in and of itself or untrue. I'm just saying that is... It's only looking at other things from your own perspective and trying to see things from their perspective,
It would be
which
just
causes
as
you to
wrong.
grow.
It'd be just as hard to do that with another human. Like, this is what I think. This is how I think that person got to that state of mind or made that decision. You may be right or wrong. Either way, you don't know. And, like, that's all.
Well, and also this does seem to like preclude evolution in some ways. So like the idea that like hawks have always just been hawks, but one day a hawk was like, we're gonna build a fucking nest.
Well, one day there was the first hawk.
Right.
Instead
of that being a progression from like millennia of
one day hawk,
like
one day no
reptiles
hawk,
turning into
hawk.
birds, and like nest building being like egg-laying and nest building being a central feature of their entire like biology. It's a really like narrow view of like how something like nest building would come to be.
But I guess like I feel like Gene Wolfe's underlying like the philosophic debate he's actually having is like, say you like separated a hawk or like raised a hawk on its own, right? Like you would still as a human being like who like raised a hawk like notice that the hawk has like instinctual behaviors like that it's like doing like in and of itself, and you might be like, why? How does it know to do this? You know, like
people can't
where does
fuck
it?
if they're not taught.
I don't
know. think that's at all true.
I think it is.
The zoanthropes.
No, children do sex movement all the time.
In the context of being raised in a place where there's sexes around them.
No.
I totally disagree with what you're saying.
This is an absurd.
No. This is the cloth monkey shit where they give the monkey the like cloth mother and the wire mother and shit. They do that kind of experiment with young primates and they can't fuck right. You take the primate completely out of primate culture, and it's never exposed to other primates or to images of primates fucking at all, and they don't fuck images.
Yeah, but I've never. What culture is going to have something completely separated from everything else in a way that it can't? Like,
what about
you don't
people
have to be
who come
taught
up
to
in
fuck.
such a like fundamentally religious culture that it's like completely not discussed? Like,
also, what the fuck does "fucking right" mean?
Like
efficiently or like
efficiently.
You know, right? Like it ends up with both people happy.
Wait, so they're.
I don't think that's what fucking is about.
90% of human fucking does not result in that.
Right. I'm not saying that it's right. They're doing it wrong.
But they are fucking.
But they're right. I don't
like. They know how to
I don't
fuck.
know if that was your original point.
See, the other thing is they don't actually know unless you're taught.
You're talking about me.
So they're not fucking.
I'm like they may be fucking, but not like like I might be driving a car if I'm like running it off the road and hitting it into houses and stuff. You know, like that. They're driving in that sense.
But you're anthropomorphizing right now. I don't think.
I believe in anthropomorphizing. I think that's how we come to know things.
Oh, I see. Yeah, we have a fundamental difference there.
Sorry.
All knowledge is from likeness. This is like that, so I know this.
Yes, but all truth isn't from likeness. I mean, yes, I think that anthropomorphization, which is probably not how you say it proper, is a useful tool. But then mistaking that for what's actually happening.
Yeah, it's more.
Like, you got to take a step beyond.
It's more of a thought experiment than than a biological actuality.
Yeah,
it's a toehold.
I think that
everything else is different.
Happening here is just like this Severian's having this like.
It's a thought experiment.
Yeah. That's basically just what it is, and it's simplified. And
the business of
dumb,
like at the end of the first paragraph, that did the higher and lower instinct join hands at the back of reason? Right. Is there but one instinct standing behind all reason, so that reason sees a hand to either side? That to me rings true as fuck. Like the end place. I mean, I don't understand what he's like exactly how the business with the one stick and all that is. Like that's not super compelling to me at this point, but this business about the hands behind the back rings totally true.
Wait, which section specifically?
It's in the paragraph right before.
Yeah, the top of 99, the very last sentence.
The last sentence of that.
Both
the higher and lower. Join hands at the back of reason.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it certainly is something.
I mean, it's like takes away the idea, which I feel like is very materialistic idea, that there can be like glitches in nature. Like that there's like an instinct that promotes natural feelings within people, and then that gets thwarted by society and creates evil. With like it's kind of a Manichaean.
And that's why he refers to governance as the lowest principle. Is that what you're talking about? Glitches, like governance, essentially, like.
Well, I think it's the lowest because like you're compensating for what you think is something wrong in people. But once you get the full perspective, you realize there isn't anything wrong with people.
Right. Their instincts are the highest.
Yeah. Like our instincts are justifications for like impulses that are not rooted in reason.
In this analogy, is governance like the nest? You know, like in that case, like, or I actually don't think that's true. Forget that. Forget that
It's
question.
like we tend to today like operate as if reason is like the foundation of our good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Where I feel like Wolfe and Severian feel that the reason is like not related to the foundation of our ideas. It's something above them
Right.
that then we like justify. I mean, like Severian is constantly justifying his actions to himself,
Mm-hmm.
even when he knows they're wrong or he hates them.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's like that's the function of the ego. Like the ego is not in charge. The ego thinks it's in charge, but it's not.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
God is
The
in charge.
instincts.
right.
Or God.
And so yeah, the ego has to constantly be like telling itself stories about why it has a choice or why it did this thing or why this is the best.
Or even
Rather-
that it exists at all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or that it's alone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to open the chips.
Oh, please do, please.
What about the Pringles?
We've been eating the Pringles.
Yeah, the Pringles have been down in my pocket.
Are they still a thing?
Like very thin, wavy hotcakes.
We're Pringling.
Wait, we got wavy
Do you
Pringles?
want a bowl?
Oh man, Caleb said if
Oh, I have no
Baby
wants.
bowl?
Thank you, though.
What?
I have no wants. But thank you.
I have no wants.
Connor, Caleb is said about the babies. If they come out texting, air texting with their thumbs, that means Lamarckian evolution is true.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I mean, there are definitely babies who are like very small that try to scroll things that aren't screens. I've seen that happening. Like I've seen like my tiny like niece or nephew, like doing this on something that's not an iPad to try to get it to like, which is not the same as coming
But
out.
that's
Yeah, I don't
mimicking.
think that's their
mimicking.
instinct. That's something that they've watched.
Yeah, that's mimicking for sure.
But
That's interesting.
It's happening to a baby that's like you can be like 1 day old and still pick that up.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say
That's what
I
we
do
go
not
for.
believe in Lamarckian evolution. Good job.
Boom.
Thank you, Connor.
Babies'
Statement
entire
made.
job
Shots
is to like
fired.
look around the world and do the things that they see. Like that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do.
It is.
They love that shit. They
They're
can't
really
get
good at
enough.
their job.
They
Oh,
can't
yeah,
get
Mark, I
enough.
did mark that passage you were talking about earlier where, like, the kid's just like, when the zoanthropes
Did you
came
come
and
as
hurt
fast?
Mama, did you come as quick as you could? Yes, I said. And then he's like, oh, this is so Severian. I came as quickly as I could make myself.
Yeah.
Right, as fast as you could. Exactly.
As fast as I could. Bone up.
As fast as I decided
I
to
came as
come
fast as I could, being a shithead.
I came as fast as I could make myself. There's 3 Severians.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, I was there when this other guy made this other guy make me come.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much.
Classic Severian.
I just noticed this thing that I underlined on page
shaped
98,
like a
which
heart.
is probably going back a little.
That's beautiful.
Where
just
he
one.
says, I guess it's right after they're talking about the zoanthropes, and he says, like, for the first time I truly understood that it, meaning like the burden of thought, could be as great a curse to others as memory has sometimes been to me. Like, the first time that he's like, hey, other people have stuff going on in their heads too.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, he is like 17 or something.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's
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 certainly
like still a
That's true.
teenager
That's-
at this
yeah.
point,
that's a good
right?
point.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's like a little baby.
he's in
he's
full
like-
shithead mode.
Yeah.
And he's like been in a private school his whole life.
Right.
I bet
Totally.
if we met a
And he's never been in
17-year-old
love.
Severian, we'd all be like, wow, that kid's pretty bright. If we actually
maybe.
met the dude in our context.
Maybe.
But being in there with him.
Could be.
Oh, just because I saw you do that, I just want everyone to know these coasters are not because I care about the table.
Oh, okay.
They're because I just didn't want everyone's books to get wet. So, like, because this
Respect.
table the surface of this table does not matter to me.
Okay.
I
Just want you guys to know.
spilled curry sauce all over my book this week, and it's now has a little bit of book rot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it smells.
It's a book that's
Ooh.
lived in, you
yeah,
know. Like,
there you go.
My book
is
got really
straight up.
weird after I was reading it on the beach last
yeah.
week, and it got
Ooh.
all salty.
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Salt
Yeah,
ice.
the beach will beachify a book.
And like sunscreen.
Mm-hmm. Like sand in the spine and
Just
everything.
greased up.
Oh,
Yeah.
which is a good segue to this minor side topic I wanted to have on TV, which is how much these book covers suck.
Now it's
I'm
time.
in public
We gotta
because
bring it up.
this does not look like the book. This is some bullshit that has nothing to do with the book. And if I was reading a book that looked like this, I would have no problem going around reading it like this. But this is not what this book is, and therefore I read it like this.
Yeah.
I feel like that's why
like,
a lot of
that,
people
man.
seem to like have this reaction to this book where they're like, "Oh, I feel like this is kind of like overhyped and like really dense, and like I just wasn't like it wasn't for me." I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, because the book covers make it look like a badass like science fiction fantasy
like
thing, which like it kind of is.
It has
I think
those
it's the
elements.
same thing where people are like, I don't know about Blade Runner, like it's kind of slow. And it's like it's not an action movie.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it just isn't an action movie, and like this isn't an action novel.
It's badass in a different way, like in a different way that people aren't thinking of. When they think of things being badass.
It's a lot more like, you know.
But, like,
The first time I read
like-
this book thinking it was going to be a sword and sorcery fantasy adventure, I read one chapter and was like, I got to take 3 months to prepare for this.
Right.
But you're totally right, though,
Yeah.
Mark. Yeah, people like approach it, because also, what section is it in? Like science fiction, you know, and it has this like dude on the front, this sword.
Yeah.
Like,
Somebody looks
like
at this guy and like, oh yeah, I bet he's got some philosophical thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about this
it's
guy.
so dumb.
Yeah, whenever
But
people
the
would
only
ask
thing
me
that-
about this book at the movie theater, I'd have to be like, it transcends the genre.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
only thing that just today has made me feel a little differently about it is because Mark said it's like if Severian was the art director, which I think is like legit, because he would make himself look like
That's
this.
true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, that's the
because we
that's
all
the
know
only way I
he
think
has,
I can
we all know
parse.
Severian has bad taste
If it was self-aware like that.
and thinks
Yeah.
he's way cooler than he really
Right.
is.
It really does.
And
I think that's the only way I
But
can
I have a
parse
big
the-
problem with it. And-
Yeah.
But
He looks so new
But
metal
in
here.
contrast, the fucking covers of Long Sun are
Are these both Derry?
amazing. That
No, one
looks
is
like not
that
looks
Derry.
like
almond.
oat milk.
That's
Oh.
dairy.
I would occasionally get distracted when reading Long Sun by just looking at the beautiful covers.
The covers are so good.
Let's look at them.
You
The
can pull
long-
one out.
Oh,
They're in the middle there.
Got a long sun. Yeah, this
They're
has got
all
a lot,
really
like-
nice. Show
They're
one
like
to the camera.
vignettes.
They're like beautiful
Show and
paintings.
tell.
I don't know if I should buy the like collected 2-copy edition or if I should buy.
I'll say this as a nerd, I have both, and though I
love
carry
that
the
one.
omnibus ones around, but I keep them.
Have you read the one second?
Caleb
read
would understand that.
2, and I need to read them again.
Except Caleb
I
doesn't
read
leave
this
the
one,
house, so he doesn't
and
have to
whatever
have a
one comes
beater
after that.
copy
Hi, Caleb.
because he reads at home.
This is.
Oh, he's
Thanks
talking
for
to
reading
you.
my story.
I tried to check out a Frank Miller interview book from the library and it had cologne all over it.
Frank Miller.
Ugh.
He's also
I mean, that
saying,
seems appropriate.
he's also saying that the cover artist this guy got his painting stolen in Baltimore.
Hey, we're number
Caleb
one.
told me that story. He like went to a convention or
you wanna
something.
see
Caleb could correct me on this.
No, I own it. Thank you, though.
No
What a guy. I wonder if he'll look at the. We should put his name in the
Anyway,
search
we
engine
can all
and search
agree that
himself.
these book covers suck.
Sorry.
And that's all I needed to say that publicly.
I kind of like the first one personally. I kinda
Ew.
like it.
There's
I don't know. It's not that
It-
bad.
there's-
The man apes, the cave ape.
No,
No, that's the second one. The first one is
the
just
one-
him with the sword.
Oh,
That's
hate
fine.
that one too.
I
But
think
it's the
that
best
one-
of the 4.
I
It
did-
is the
Best
best
of
of
the
the
four.
four.
Of the 4, that one's the closest to like
Yeah.
some kind of
It's not-
evocation.
it's not terrible.
Of, of
I don't
what
mind.
Luke is.
Fucking cape.
The cape is a
The
little
Paisley,
dotted.
the Paisley fucking
He's got
cape.
he's still got the Paisley on
He
his
I
cover,
know.
too.
He does. He still has.
I don't understand that.
Have
but
you seen the covers of the like new super fancy like hundreds of dollar editions?
Yeah.
No.
They're kind of
I did
cool.
see that. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know how
It's
I feel
kinda
about
cool.
them,
Yeah.
but they are cool. I don't know.
Yeah, I
It's
forget
interesting.
which.
I don't
There's like a
really-
limited edition.
Yeah.
They talk about it on the Gene Wolfe Appreciation Society.
Oh.
Oh, I haven't
Facebook.
been going on Facebook
Yeah.
Is it like a
until last night.
Yeah. Anyway, they're kind
I
of
don't
cool,
know.
and they're illustrated too. There's like a few illustrations
Oh, really?
sprinkled throughout the book. So yeah, it's a good Google search.
I don't know if I feel like they convey the book.
they're not
either.
great.
I don't think
They're not
I
perfect.
don't think they do, but they do look cool.
I feel like it's
They're better
it's
than
so
this.
tough to like make. It's so tough to visualize any of the stuff in this book. Like
Yeah.
there's so many layers of removal.
Yeah.
There's so much like otherworldliness that cannot be fully captured.
Yeah.
That I think. I mean, it's this sort of the same reason that it wouldn't really work as a movie or a TV show, where it's like. I mean, like you could do it.
You
like
could.
you
Yeah,
could
like
do
Fire.
it, but it's going to be a really specific
some-
take on whatever's happening.
Or a
There's
very
something
different
like
kind of
that, but-
TV show.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? Just
Yeah.
like a very mysterious TV show.
I think that
This
there's
is
a
gonna
lot
be
of
a
things
scene.
that
It's like one
Legion
of the
is
four.
doing right
Yeah,
now that
yeah,
I would
you're right.
want to use to make this.
Oh,
That would
maybe
be
it
sick.
is.
There's the
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Oh,
seems
yours
like
is cut off.
because you would
Yeah,
not be
maybe
able to
there's this
capture
guy on the
Right.
the
shoulder.
mystery of the
Perception.
prose. You
Yeah.
would have to
Yeah, it must be
like there some of that
You would
like,
have to capture that visually.
yeah, like
you
that
know,
ethic would need to be embedded into how it works.
into how it
yeah.
looks. Yeah, like
Which
it would
would
have
be
to
so-
look confusing.
Right. Yeah, there's
And
got to be
so-
something
like-
weird about it.
Yeah, I feel like it would be like I feel like audio would be really important, and then like a new sun, like setting like a very unusual like tone
Hmm.
to replace sort of the poetry of a lot of the language here.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think wandering off into documentaries and not just sticking with like, look at Severian walking along, but like ignore Severian and just like we're making a documentary about the philosophy that he's musing about,
Ah.
Yeah.
like John Hamm does in the second season of Legion.
Interesting.
You guys want to talk about the tale of the boy?
Oh
Called
yeah.
Dog? I feel like
I always hate these like side stories, but I really like this one.
This is
Interesting.
It's straight up like
I like them okay. This one left me like cold. Like, why did you like
This
it?
is my least favorite.
it's such a clear Jungle Book
Yeah.
thing that's
So Rudyard
What-
Kipling. Yeah.
well, I mean, like almost directly. Like it's like frog. Like Mowgli means frog, and like
And-
there's the like Bagheera character, and like I don't know. It seems like
But they're
so
all
direct.
kind of like
But
that.
Severian
Yeah.
is remember Severian's
All the
heading into the jungle
stories.
right now.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like Wolfe is setting up like the jungle scene by like bringing in this Jungle Book reference, and then Severian like is like going. He's like changing the atmosphere of the book. You know, going from the Commonwealth to Thrax, and now we're entering the jungle section of the book where he's going to encounter these like tribal people and these like different beasts and shit.
He
And
spilled
eventually
a
war.
great deal of the Romulus and Remus into this jungle.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is Jungle Book is that.
You
too.
see, I mean,
It is?
yeah,
I didn't
well,
know that.
Mowgli's raised by wolves, and
I mean-
you know he comes back to the realms of man, and
So
like there's a
he's
lot of it there
I think
too.
Wolf's aware of the the influence and then the
I've only
influence
seen
in
the
that.
animated film.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense that Kipling would have imbued. I mean, like
Yeah.
he was writing in a colonial mode.
I think
and
I've
so
I've
having-
read that Wolfe was really interested in Kipling. Sorry,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, because
I was
like,
saying what you were saying.
Yeah, Kipling is in this colonial mode. Like the story of Rome is like entirely of colonialism, and then here we're getting this colonial element as well.
Yeah.
this
And
Severian kind of entering this.
Colonialism is super important for Wolfe, as like a topic. I feel like that's kind of what he's interested in with Kipling specifically.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of
Adventure
sense.
stories, adventure, colonialism.
Mhm.
the part that they're not talking about, the thing their narrator can't see in those old ass books. Their Severian-ness.
Which, like, Rudyard Kipling is
Good word.
the symbol for ignorant colonialism, I think.
In-
White man's burden.
Or
and
like
all
he
that.
had like
Yeah.
a neoliberal
Yeah.
streak. Like he wrote like that poem. Is it called like If or something? Where he like Rudyard Kipling was aware that there were bad elements to colonialism.
Yeah, he's clearly
Like-
not the most nuanced
Not the most
approach
right.
to it,
But he's like I think he knew like
certainly
these are
of
human
his
beings.
time, but I think that there is a certain amount of self-awareness.
He had a
in
little
what he's doing.
for a white dude of his time. He did have
Writing about it,
awareness
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, but he still celebrated the American acquiring of the
Yeah.
Philippines or whatever.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
not
not
at
gonna-
all woke.
I'm
around.
not a Kipling apologist, but
Not at all.
I-
woke.
Good, because then we can't talk to each other.
Right.
You're out of the club.
Oh, wow.
It's just like
Back
different.
in.
Like if you watch
You're
like
right.
the Indiana Jones movies, they haven't like which are kind of based in that whole like kind of like lore or like like adventure stories in the jungle.
Yeah,
Like the
Right.
tribes people and kind
Yeah,
of shit
very
like that.
pulpy.
Like that, those haven't aged well at all. Like they're like fucked up to watch now.
The
Like
Indiana Jones movies?
just
Yeah.
going through the jungle, like shooting.
The
like,
second
or
one's all
like
about
any
the
any
bullshit.
Tarzan stories.
Yeah,
It's like,
right.
ugh.
Yeah, it's all in my view. It's not aging well. But I feel like Kipling at least had some little like dimension there.
You know, there's an interesting book that, and this is
Ryan's
a
kind
little
of
bit off.
grimacing right now. You're grimacing a little.
You call me Ryan?
Oh, I was calling you Ryan.
Oh no.
I
called him
I called
earlier.
him Connor.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Very interesting.
The mustached men of the group.
Mustachioed
Yeah.
man of Wolf.
I feel like it's important to remember all the.
Can't call him
I
mustache.
don't like. I don't
No,
like
I
throwing
just
that
feel like Ryan and Connor
out
are the
of
same
the
thing.
bath, just because. I mean, I think it's important to look at it and be
Ours
like,
and
well,
theirs.
this isn't what I think.
Like fake
You know.
Irish.
Yeah.
There's a book, or it's 2 books that came out somewhat recently. It's called The Vor. It's by B. Catling.
Mhm.
B. Catling, and it is like sort of a like Lovecraftian take on this like colonial literature, like British colonial literature, and it's interesting to see like a modern version of that kind of story that is self-critical and like
Right.
is like understanding of the this like colonial mindset going into it and using that as a narrative tool to push through it and be critical of it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
How do we feel about this tale as we have it?
I did not know Mowgli meant frog. I'm
Yeah.
much more enlightened now.
It's very cute.
Yeah, it's basically grafting a brother onto the Mowgli story
To get it
to
Romanier.
to get it a little more Roman.
Because he doesn't
It's
really, the brother doesn't really like.
He's
have that much
barely
of a
there.
story.
He just
Yeah.
kind of like
Oh, and he
shows
kills
up
him.
at the
There's
end.
like some Cain and Abel.
That ending is
some
so
Cain and Abel
whack.
stuff.
It's like, oh, he came back, he jumped over the wall, and then the people, knowing that small things mocked can never grow large, slew him.
And
Like,
then,
what?
but then
You just killed
there's
him 'cause
this
he jumped over
fucking
the
James
wall.
Fenimore Cooper reference right at the end.
Whoa.
What's
What's
there?
Squanto?
Squanto.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Just tacked on.
Which-
right?
That was really weird.
But no, it totally makes sense.
It
because
absolutely makes sense,
Nettie
because that's-
Gumbo is a Mowgli figure.
Yeah, that's another colonial literature for sure.
Yeah.
But it's such a funny
about
like
someone going native.
It's
Yeah.
funny because it's like there's all of these like the references are pretty obvious, but they're in there. But and then again, he's like, oh, by the way, that guy was Squanto. And
Right.
You
It's
guys
at
know
the
that
very
now.
end
so-
of the story.
Yeah.
Is the
And it's
real
like one of the-
Squanto in the Fenimore Cooper books? Or is there some? Is he
So-
just? It's the real Squanto,
No, well, yeah, right. Squanto is an actual
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
which doesn't mean naked one or savage. It means it's like God's anger. Is Squanto is the origin of Squanto's name.
Oh.
His real name's Tisquantum, and they call him Squanto as a.
Oh,
As an
yeah.
Anglo.
Yeah, but the native significance is like spirit's anger or God's anger.
Cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, he has a crazy story.
Yeah, maybe it's not actually a Cooper reference. I mean, like he's definitely writing in that mode and kind of like in that same realm.
The
so-
real Squanto is abducted
My legs are
and
going
taken
crazy. I just
to
need to stand
England
up.
and
Right,
lives
right.
there for like a couple of years, and then is sent back. Like he's like, or he's not sent back. He contrives to get his way back, and when he comes back, he's changed and kind of outcast from everyone because he's been he's been living with Europeans and knows their language now.
Right.
And it, like from what I read, it seems like after he comes back, nobody really wants to like hang out with him, and he's not as interested in what they're doing, and so he's just constantly with.
He's like between worlds.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like
can
always
never go
hanging out
home
with
again.
Europeans that are over there.
Kind of like dispossessed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that people don't really trust him. Like his entire tribe dies while he's gone.
Aww.
They get the plague, and so
Right.
when he comes back, his whole entire like village is deserted. So
hate to
he has
see
a,
it.
but he has I guess
wonder if
like
that
kind of a
happens to me when I
Mowgli
go back to
between two
Phoenix.
worlds thing.
Might.
Although instead of Squanto's like almost a man when he's abducted, so it's kind of a weird, inverted, like blasphemous version of Mowgli's story.
Right, because Mowgli kind of he doesn't know how to be human, and then in the end he's like, oh, but I gotta go do it.
Yeah, and Mowgli is like rescued from death by the jungle, whereas like Squanto is taken from the jungle by the White Death.
By death.
Yeah, and so I guess the naked one in this story is sort of the Baloo figure. So instead of it being a bear, it's basically a zoanthrope, but not, I guess, not a lobotomized one. So just like someone who has gone back to nature. Weird way. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy how in the cartoon Baloo and Bagheera's personalities are switched for no reason?
Are they?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, Baloo is a carefree guy, and Bagheera is like, we've got to learn. And in the book, it's the other way around. Baloo's the teacher, and Bagheera is like,
But you would
whatever.
rather
Yeah,
have
Bagheera's-
a fun musical number with a bear.
Yeah.
Well, well, and that voice actor only plays bears.
Yeah, pretty much.
Really?
He plays Little John in the other one.
Which is just like
Basically the
recycled
same
animation
It
from,
is
from
exactly
Jungle Book.
Baloo.
It's like how Belle. and
Actually, he
Mermaid have
played
the
a cat.
same
He did the cat in Aristocats for one.
Oh, yeah, Tom O'Malley?
Yeah, Tom O'Malley.
A bear.
Well, he couldn't push for a bear.
Right. It's hard to insert a bear into it.
I do want to say that my favorite part of the story is on page 106, and it's when the wolf, the he-wolf, is talking to the butcher, and he says, they're like kind of going back and forth, and he's like, yeah, like, he's like, I've seen dead wolves, and then the wolf is like, yeah, and you ate them, even though, like, even the flies wouldn't eat them. Maybe you'll even eat me, too, if I get killed by a tree or something. Like, he's saying, like...
Yeah, I do love how much shit-talking goes on.
That's,
in
like,
there.
I love that, like,
Yeah.
it's so awesome.
I also liked how there's a lot of anthropomorphization in the story.
Oh, yeah, they
Yeah,
talk about
like,
their swords.
Yeah, they talk
Right.
about the butcher's Smilodon, but he's like depicted
But
like
I
having
was
two knives.
confused
The
because
wolf.
the mom is referred to pulling the sword off of the shelf at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they have sheaths
They have
and like they have
scabbards.
doorways. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like it. I feel like it was doing a cool thing where for a second I was like, wait a second, are these humans who are named after animals?
Right.
And then later it's like, no, they're definitely animals, but by the end of it,
They're
it
also
doesn't matter.
acting.
Right.
It
Right.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That wolf is a symbol of a type
Kind of like
person.
watching
Exactly.
animation.
Or it's
Kinda
like
an
the
animated
new,
movie.
the new film adaptation of Cats the musical.
Exactly.
I'm gonna see that.
Fuck.
I've
I
never seen
am definitely
Cats.
going to see it.
I've never seen Cats. I'm curious about it.
I saw it when I
Always
was
been
like
curious about it.
6.
Yeah.
It came through Birmingham, and I fucking loved it. I was
I
like
bet.
so fucking into Cats. And then, like in high school, I found these two cats, and my girlfriend at the time had been listening to the Cats soundtrack a lot,
Uh-huh.
and so I named the cats Mungo, Jerry, and Rumpelteazer.
Oh,
which
God.
is really embarrassing.
Yes, it
But I'm
is.
sharing it
Mungo
here.
is in a Cats musical
Mungo Jerry, yeah,
Oh.
is one of.
because he's one of the guys in Riff Raff's gang, Mungo.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Well, Mungo
It's
Jerry
also a
also
band.
sings In
In
the
the
summertime
summertime,
when the living
No,
is hot.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have this on my head for like a year.
I also really liked the quote, for an angel is often only a demon
Yeah.
who stands between us and our enemy.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that part a lot too.
Nice quote.
I really like to name is to call. That is the law.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
fucking awesome.
Which
Yeah.
is so
True.
Jungle Book.
Mhm.
Like that, the syntax, the phrasing of it, like that's how
Is
they
this
talk.
is this the part where he talks about like the pancreator creating the word, saying the word of the universe?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like that's cool. Like thinking of reality as
We're like,
a piece
yeah,
of
we're
language.
but syllables in the sentence. Of
Mhm.
the,
That's
of the
really like
universe.
Kabbalistic.
Mhm.
Totally.
Mhm.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and all the way back to Egypt, Atum
Yeah.
creates himself by saying his own name.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sorry.
And Jung too is what is the Jung quote? Like named or not named, the God is present.
Say that again.
Name or not named, named or not named. And he says it in Latin, so it's, I think you can translate it a couple different ways. But it's like named or not named, the God is present. Like you don't have to say like Mars is here in this room for Mars to be in this room. But the other corollary is that like when you act Marsy, you bring Mars to you.
Mhm.
Marzi.
Yeah.
Marsy.
When you get on Martian,
Marsy.
Mars is there, even if you don't say Mars is here.
Is there anything about this story that kind of relates to the greater narrative of the Book of the New Sun? Like to me, this one feels like the most like just kind of dropped in.
Well,
Like,
we're in
The point adding to like the flavor
Well, I mean,
of the whole.
I guess
like,
the kid,
repeated
like,
tropes.
Little Severian kind of like calls it. And he's like, I want your story
Yeah.
about it has a boy in it with a big friend and a twin, and there
Yeah.
should be wolves, and
Right.
the story has
Yeah,
all
right,
of those
right,
things.
yeah.
Oh yeah, because also he talks about his mom having a book, and then he's like, "Oh, this isn't like our book," but I get the feeling that he already knows this story, and that's like why he's asking.
Maybe is there also a thing going on here
mhm.
where like early summer is one story in the book, and then Severian's finding another story with wolves and linking them together himself to try to convince Little Severian they're one story? Like I was wondering if part of this was
That's
like
kind of what Wolfe is doing.
Yeah, that this was an improvisational pastiche on the part of Severian to get all of the requests of Little Severian into the story. Because they are kind of disjointed, the beginning with Early Summer and then eventually ending up with Frog and Fish.
Yeah, and there's even like 2 paragraphs, not even a break of section, where I felt like I had to like reread it because it was like the shift from like the characters kind of like happened like so abruptly in the middle.
Yeah.
I think, the first part was about like Early Summer and all of them, and then all of a sudden we're like with these wolves, yeah.
There's something of that in the other fabulous stories, though. Like where,
Definitely in the Navis Kaput story.
Yeah, exactly. Where there's this sort of like each one almost starts like 2 or 3 generations back, and so then it's like, and then they had this kid, and then they went here and had these children, and then the story happens.
Yeah.
And I think that's.
Although
it's interesting because Severian's story doesn't have that.
Do you mean the Book of the New Sun, or do you mean this story?
Well, this story has that, like with Early Summer and this like lineage.
I felt like it like skipped over what would be to me the story. Like this was setting it up, and then at the end it's like in all of the adventures of Frog, and he did all, and then like so after we get all this setup about all this stuff, it's like and then the real stuff happens
And
for like
then
3
he lived his
paragraphs.
life.
Yeah.
But
The
his
end.
life is what the story is about. Like he like ends up being like the emperor of people and the wolves,
so like the Jungle Book isn't about Mowgli. Like as an adult, it's I mean, I guess there's some elements of that, but it's really about his like childhood. Which I mean, I guess is this whole book is kind of about Severian's childhood.
Yeah,
and what a beast he is.
Yeah, he's beastly.
Such a beast.
And then we skip the whole time that he's
true.
the autarch,
Right?
And then he's on a ship going out of the universe.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes it think.
But I did think it was interesting that there is this like lineage aspect of this when we don't like that. That's sort of like this very. I mean, I guess we get it a little bit with Dorcas, and but it's not as clear. Like the structure of this whole novel does not work in the way that these stories work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me the story. This story kind of makes me think of Ovid's Metamorphoses and the way they nested.
Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, where like you think you're reading a story, and then suddenly Hermes is like, "And now I'm going to tell you a story." And
Right.
like, oh, we got to the story now, and someone in that story is like, "And this is the story."
Yeah, that like nesting is amazing in like old texts. What is the big fucking classical Indian one that does that so hard?
The 1001 Arabian Nights.
Well, not that one, but like it's really big. My brain's just not working right now. But anyway, it's the big Indian book that just literally is just like here one guy's telling a story, and then in his story someone else tells the story, and then
the Mahabharata.
the Mahabharata. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was.
They call it the big Indian.
Not the Ramayana, the Mahabharata.
Yeah.
Orlando Furioso is one of my favorites because of the way that it's just, I mean, it's like 3,000 pages of 8-line stanzas of a continual adventure with a humongous cast that's like always cutting away at cliffhangers, and like the sense of time within each story is like really like flagrantly like unrealistic. Like, like it'll be like, hey, let me tell you about something that happened. Like, a story's happening, and then they meet some guy, and he's like, I got to tell you what just happened over here, and he starts telling a story. And if you ever try to compare timelines,
create a timeline.
it's like this guy has been away for this guy's been doing something for 1 week, but this guy he saw a week ago has been for months, like traveling this land and just gotten back. And they do it, and it's very, very deliberate. And
Because
really
in
funny.
those days, time was softer.
That's true.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
That's why the last season of Game of Thrones, they don't have to work. They can just fast travel.
Because they don't own a watch.
Exactly. They don't know how long.
in the span of 15 minutes, they go fight a war in the north, come back south, fight a war.
And in the first season,
Then they
it
argue
took like
about it.
episodes and episodes for them to get anywhere.
What's the name of the William Blake drawing of the guy who's like bent over measuring? You know that drawing?
I don't.
Oh,
That's the one of I don't know. There are a couple of drawings that have bent over figures.
yeah. It's like a dude with a compass, and he's like completely bent over to his back straight, and he's like measuring something with the compass between his feet. That's like William Blake's drawing of the guy who's like, well, this timeline,
Right.
this doesn't.
A pedant.
Yeah. These I'm sorry, but mathematically this is invalid.
Yeah.
Right.
I know, it's just funny to say it that way.
The Circle of the Sorcerers.
Chapter 20.
This is cool.
This
Yeah.
is cool.
Oh man.
Yeah, it is cool.
So are they?
It's dorky a little bit.
This was like Severian's like one shot Dungeon World campaign.
Yeah,
or something
for sure.
Into the Circle of the Sorcerers.
Yeah, but I mean, this stuff is.
So these guys
Stuff's
are
tight.
affiliated with like the people who would be in the
This,
in jail. In Severian's jail, right? Because
The
they're
not
like,
Vodalis people?
wait, are they Vodalis people though? Okay.
The sorcerers?
That's what I'm
sorcerers
wondering.
are against.
I've never
It
thought
seems, it seems like they're
I
their
don't
own
think they're
thing.
I don't think
Vodalist
they are
people, but at least Severian seems to think that they are anti-Newsome.
they're anti-Newsome.
There's like various factions who are
So-
anti-Newsome, but it doesn't make them Vodalare.
Yeah, I
Right,
feel like
so,
the
like-
Vodalari are
Is
aristocrats.
everyone
Right.
everyone who is against the New Sun affiliated with Abaya though? Even if they're not affiliated with each other,
Perhaps.
I'm not sure. I mean, we know Vodalis is,
right?
and
I guess doesn't really
the
matter.
Ashayans are directly
These people
taking orders.
seem like just a splinter
They're just weirdos.
tribe
They're just
that's
other
in
guys.
this part of the jungle.
Well,
Yeah, I
they
think
say
they're
something.
just isolated.
They do say something when they are talking to Severian about you're from the. We know that you're Severian, the lictor of Thrax.
Oh, yeah, later, yeah, they do, like...
And
how did they
it-
know that? Did they read his mind or something?
It seems like, in my mind,
They question the boy too.
Does
They
he say
interrogate the boy.
something?
Maybe he's
Yeah.
still got his
Yeah.
like employee ID.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
Severian.
no,
Lictor
like
of
I
Well, though he probably still has that note thing too.
well, I'm wondering if he's,
yeah.
but they don't look at like. Are these people part of the people who would be? That's why I'm asking if they would be in the Vinicula. Like these are
No,
among the people. Who
I don't
would
think
be.
so.
There's something that they said. Anyway,
Because they also can legit mind read, right?
Wait, I do want to...
Yeah, like
That's really up in the
how
air.
seriously do we take the sorcerer?
but Jordan, back to your
Well, there's
point,
electric read too.
I don't see why not. Why there
Trickery
couldn't
is
be
mind reading.
members of these people in the Vincula. Like, I mean,
I think he
Severian
says
does
something
mention that,
to
like,
that.
a ton of the people in the Vincula are just... He talks about this class. Do you remember? Like,
Oh yeah,
most of
well
them
he
are this
actually
other
does
class
say that there's like
of people who are...
a lot of
who are mostly who are the people who are in jail.
autochthons,
That's what, yeah.
which these guys
They're-
are.
Which is why they would know.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I think
Maybe you're right, you're
I
right.
think some of these people might be part of the Vincula population. Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
It seems like there's
he
some
doesn't specify.
crossover bare minimum.
It's very possible. They're close by.
Yeah, totally.
It seems
You're
like
right.
Thrax does try to draw, arrest and control like the wild people
Yeah.
from the surrounding regions.
I'm trying to think. I thought. That
Well,
there
that
was, like,
can't be
something
how I'm-
particular.
Can I turn this light on?
Yeah.
On?
Yeah.
Yeah,
turn it on.
it's
Is it
that switch. It's actually the knob.
Did the light in here change while I was looking down?
Turn
The
it.
sun moved.
Turn it.
Oh, okay.
The sun's getting
I
closer to you.
don't. There was something in particular that I was like, oh, I didn't.
Drawing it towards you.
While you're looking, there's on this first page here, he's
Mark
talking
it.
about going back to Thekla's memory, and she's like seeing the face, or her maid is telling her or something like that, like that she can see the face of Thekla's future husband, and then Severian's like, "Was it mine? I wonder."
Yeah.
What a douche! But does
I-
Severian think of himself as her husband because they're now?
I guess
in
they're,
the same
they're in
body.
some way wedded. But also, so is
Everyone else at that party.
That's
Which is
But
another
it-
whole
but-
thing.
yeah. That's like now. So doesn't everybody know? Everyone knows Severian's whole deal. Then
Everyone knows
everyone-
Thekla's whole
like,
deal.
right,
Oh well,
they-
through.
But yeah, like by extension,
Thekla,
wouldn't
yeah.
they know?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
hadn't even thought about that.
Well, they
Like,
at least would know Severian through Thekla.
That's
right.
a Jewish idea of the afterlife. Is that, is like rather than a heaven or hell type situation, it's like you just go like all souls kind of merge into a unified consciousness where everyone knows what everyone else has done.
Mhm.
So you either are like in shame or in honor or whatever
Right.
based on
It's
your
so
like,
funny.
but it's like a psychological thing.
When you join God, everybody's gonna know what you did.
Yeah, that's actually it's one idea.
That idea is so much more terrifying than going to hell.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like
Well, it's just like-
okay, the devil's the
Yeah.
devil's punishing me, or it's like, oh no, like grandma knows everything.
Grandma's
I
just
did.
watching a videotape of you masturbating throughout, like a compilation of all of
But
your...
it,
That's
but
not proud.
Jews
But you're
are
also
really-
watching grandma masturbating
Right.
forever.
the Jewish
Shit
like
gets real.
the
after you die.
Jewish like philosophy of the Jewish like kind of ethical philosophy is like heavily based in personal responsibility, and it's like, and that's why you have like the repentance day instead of going to a priest and confessing your sins and the priest absolving you of your sins or whatever.
Right.
You have this day every year where you think back on the past year, you think of all the things that you've done that you're like not proud of, you ask forgiveness from people for those actions, and then you also forgive yourself for them.
Which I would argue that doing it with a priest is a metaphor for that original.
Oh sure, I
And
mean
then
I'm
it
not. I'm
became
just
a
saying like
commodity.
I'm just saying like
Yeah.
that's the protocol is like you ask forgiveness of other people and then you forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think that like that's kind of like closure. I mean, if that's on the ledger too. I mean, it's not you know it's not like
It's still on
not
your
like
permanent record.
vindictive knowledge or whatever. But it's like, are you proud of your life or are you not kind of thing.
Right.
It's more about like a self
Yeah.
judgment.
Self-evaluation.
Yeah.
Give myself a 3 out of 4.
Are we
No
ready?
redemption without sin.
Are we ready to start talking about if these guys are magic, or do we want to hold on until the duel later? Like,
I think
We can
everything.
talk about it.
I think everything up to the duel you can kind of explain.
Yeah, it's tricks.
It's like holes in the ground and like it's all tricks. But then
There's no magic in these books.
well, that's the thing is that
Well,
until
but magic or not magic doesn't mean.
Well, up until
like-
now, I thought it was just like science, kind of like that seems like magic. But this is the one part where it's like it seems like magic.
Well, but I think saying that like the idea of telepathy can only exist within the concept of magic
Right.
is kind
yeah, I
of
mean,
For
like,
sure.
like thinking about it from like a
All right.
Is
Philip
that-
K. Dick
is
because
that-
I mean
perspective.
like
that
the
what
Howls
Wolfe
of
thinks,
both
though?
like the Severian's ability to hold all those personalities within his own mind is like
it's given a
beyond
mechanical
our
reason.
normal experience of day-to-day life.
Well,
or whatever.
maybe.
But there is
most people's
but there is a
minds.
mechanism for it that explains
Right.
how it works. I think.
Yeah, but
Actually, I'm
But
going
there's
back on
also
that. I
things-
think that's totally the experience of everybody's life. We have everyone we know in our head.
But
all
I
the
mean,
time.
we don't think of it that way, and I think that just that not necessarily having a simple explanation for something doesn't mean it like can't exist.
I follow completely. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
I think that I'm in the end going to agree with what you guys
Okay.
are saying. But I think we're gonna have to talk about it for a little
Let's
bit
talk
first.
about it.
That's what we're here for.
My sense, and this again.
I don't
so-
like talking.
All right. Well,
it's
I'll
happens that
just
we are
use telepathy.
here to pontificate at length about the things that
Here are
happen in
my
this book.
thoughts.
This makes me think of the experiences I've had with Catholic masses that worked really well, which was often when I was a child and didn't know anything about the symbols that go into Catholic mass, which also Severian mentions that thinking you need to know about the meaning of a symbol is the most base kind of superstition. I think that exactly what we were talking about, where like everybody has everyone they know living in their head and we just don't think about it.
Yeah.
They've taken Severian and put him in a situation where the like semiotic environment that he's in forces him to view what is happening in a completely different way.
Yes.
And that's what the magic is. Which one
You're
isn't
talking about the duel.
yeah. That isn't like magic, like our D&D fireball kind of magic, but that's what real magic is exactly this.
Just like higher uses of consciousnesses that we currently understand.
Right.
That seems like magic to us, and that's kind of but it still has an underlying sort of like scientific description.
Psychological.
I'm not making an argument
yeah.
that
I
it's
think
magic.
it's more
I'm just saying that
psychology. It's a
there's like
soft science.
legitimately like some
that's
like
what I'm saying.
high
I think
level
that in the
mind
end we
shit
agree.
going on.
Right.
Yeah.
That could conceivably exist in the natural world.
Definitely.
I think-
Oh yeah, I leave
Right.
a lot
I
of
think it's
room
like-
for a lot of things.
For sure.
Yeah.
I
Me
think
too.
digging, like putting the kid up through the hole and like the blow dart in the cane.
Mhm.
I think that's on a continuum that like there's not a break into the mind stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just like the mind stuff that works on Severian is more elegant of a trick,
and it's all reinforced by the more like mechanical things that they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think it is interesting to think about, like, okay, this isn't like there's no magic in this novel, but so everything maybe has a somewhat scientific like explanation, but that it can be a soft scientific explanation. It could be psychology, more
Right.
more than biology, something like that. And because this is certainly not hard sci-fi, but I think that like there's a great virtue to that, to incorporating soft science interpretations of this stuff instead of just trying to be like, oh yeah, I mean, there's like it's like the little mechanical time machine, whatever, technology, biology, physics stuff.
Right.
Yeah, there's
I think
there's
that, sorry, I think that stuff, I kind of feel like this part is just to like, maybe not just, but like, it kind of puts a little like, yes, okay, there's no magic in the story or whatever, and like, probably all of like the pageantry surrounding it, the painted men, the boy coming up through out of someone's jacket, that's all to like kind of like set the mood, be like more suggestible, like it could be like a psychological thing. Maybe it is totally like manipulating this like other higher consciousness, but it's like maybe it has to be like, I don't know, that's getting away from my point. The point is, so Severian's like, these are charlatans, this is all made up, whatever,
and then he's like, oh shit, I'm a little out of
he's
my
kind of used to seeing that, like, as a torturer, is like the blooming wheel and whatever, all like little tricks. But like, it's just kind of like real life, where we're like, you can't be psychic, ghosts aren't real or whatever, but then like something might happen to you to make you be like, I don't know what that was. And I think it's just really true. It's just like kind of like introducing the possibility. They don't really explain it. They don't say like, this is what it is.
Right.
But in the end, Severian's like, I don't know, maybe he was just fucking around with stuff and he found something. Like, that's not inconceivable. Like, and that's true. That's how it is in real life, too. Where it's like, yeah, of course, all this stuff's going on, but then you, like, have this weird thing. Yeah, I already said that.
What it seems like... No, it's all right. Please, Connor.
I want to clarify what I was saying before, rephrase it. Real magic exists in this book. Nothing miraculous happens. There's no one, at no point do the rules of the world get broken.
Yeah.
Right. That's magic could be like a real part of the world, like our.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like in a Discworld where all the technology is powered by like demons.
Well, like the magic as a word just basically describes something that can't happen that's fantastical, right? Like if you're talking about like what magic actually is, instead of something that seems like magic to the observer. So to us, this seems like magic, but this in the future, this tribe has developed this weird skill mentally somehow, and is doing this.
Well, and that's certainly playing on that.
Goes back to the soft science thing that you.
Yeah, well, and there's the Niven's law, or there's maybe it's Niven has a law that plays off of the other one, but it's like any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
It's Clark's law.
It's Clark's law. Yeah, but then Niven has like a corollary, which is like any sufficiently advanced magic is indistinguishable from technology.
That makes sense.
Something like that.
Nothing happens in this book that couldn't happen in our world, I guess, is the other part of what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like,
I also think there's a lot of stuff that
world.
happens in our world that is like as yet unexplainable by science.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because
I'm just there's no like an actual god reaches down and picks you, like there's none of that. Everything
I think we all agree about that.
Is totally possible.
Or if there is, it's an enormous alien.
Right, yeah, exactly. Like there are other beings, this like being of light and shit, but it was like someone made it. Like
yeah, it's an interesting,
but it's still like this wild, crazy, amazing thing.
It's such a blatant neurosis to have to organize
everything that you hear about in terms of how is it explainable by the knowledge I already have.
Yeah.
But it's the default mode of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta.
And it's so clearly like you
It's the worst.
take one step outside of it, and it is like neurotic behavior.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so frustrating.
Yeah. But like having
talk about this a
conversations
lot,
with
don't you?
strangers, it's sort of predicated that that's where we're starting. Is that like we can explain everything, and you will not bring any like unsanctioned explanation into our conversation, or we can't communicate.
Right. Yeah.
Boring.
Oh, I really like on 113. He does not call you father. He suffers fancies.
Yeah.
He suffers. I want to
Oh,
use.
yeah.
I'm going to remember to use that about people as much as I can.
He suffers fancy.
He suffers
Oh, wait a minute.
fancies.
Did we already talk about, or did we already pass the part where he talks about, oh, no. That comes next. Never mind.
I don't think we've really passed.
Yeah, we're
much.
not.
We're snuffling along like
Our-
our
We really are
slime
We
trail.
have
Yeah.
a
Really hard to
wandering journey.
Yeah.
Of
Which
going-
Just for the viewers' information, it is like 110 degrees in Baltimore City today, and it's maybe
It's like-
85 in
Yeah,
my house
it's
right
probably
now.
something like that.
It's delirious.
What's that
It's
noise?
very,
So-
it's very
What's that
comfortable.
noise?
Yeah,
But somewhat
it's a
timeless.
language.
It's
like,
hard
feel.
not to
What have you been
snuff
saying
it.
in the
like
chat?
the amount
like
of time
8
someone
o'clock
has
right
pressed
now.
play on this.
Yeah, is anybody
That
saying
doesn't
something in the
necessarily
chat?
mean- Oh yeah, Caleb and I are talking. Also, Corey Schuler piped in.
Yeah, what?
Oh,
come
hey,
on,
Corey.
we gotta, let's
Aaron was in there at the beginning, but he seems to.
What are they saying?
Just stuff.
I guess if they want,
Yeah,
they want
send
to
your
be heard, they
questions
can
in.
come
Don't
to the
undermine
damn
our
meetings.
viewership.
I'm not undermining them.
They're all
Upstairs.
important.
They're having a
What?
great time.
There is one upstairs,
Is
and
that
there's
the
one
place?
back
Okay.
there.
All right.
You can go either way.
No, go to this one because there's a mirror behind the toilet.
I have a question about the
That's
Snuffle
Liz's
Beast.
bathroom. She has some really nice decorations.
It's really great in there.
The Snuffle Beast only shows up when he's in prison. Is there like something metaphorical happening there, or is it just convenient to like that?
Ooh, isn't that the same snuffler that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The Snuffle Beast only ever happens when Severian's locked up.
Yeah. It's,
Oh, like
it's
enclosed.
ensnared.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Maybe it has to be in the dark.
Yeah. Or I guess like noctules when you're outside will find you in the sky, and this if you're
Oh, it's
inside
my
somewhere,
room. You
it's
can
got
go
to
through it.
send
It's
the
the
little
left
snuffler.
one. Yeah.
Maybe.
I thought it was interesting that like, oh, he's back
My
again.
room is a
and
mess.
And Severian's in a cell again.
Interesting.
Although, yeah, I suppose this Hethor's got like 3 or 4 tools, and the nodules are useless if you're in a cell. I mean, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, they're probably they're not going to get
Yeah.
to you that way.
I guess I was wondering, is there more metaphorical like significance to the trail of slime, particularly with the
Well, the
prison
Snuffler
Snuffle Beast?
thing seems to be more like a, it's like a bloodhound almost. Like it's trying to find
Yeah.
Severian always, and so maybe it tends to come upon him when he is imprisoned because that's like the only time that he's not on the move,
Yeah.
really,
Or visible.
or visible. Yeah.
Oh, like that he's been confined in one space.
He was hidden away. That's what prisons.
Yeah.
Hiding you away. So that's what
Oh, and
people
also
has
was
to
saying
find.
when he was thinking about himself because of the duel, it made it really easy to find, or like the other guy's attention on it.
Yeah. He has Severian has a theory about this.
Yeah, he does.
Where is?
It's like because that guy was thinking about me so hard, it was
hard, I
easy
can't
for the
handle
Snuffle
it.
Beast to find me. I feel like it's his theory.
Perhaps it hunted by scent, yet I've always felt it was by thought. That would explain why it was so slow to find me in the antechamber where I had dreamed myself to Thekla, and so swift in the hall of testing when Decuman's mind was focused on mine.
Interesting.
That's Severian's theory, which,
Yeah.
checks out.
That's probably the clearest explanation we're gonna get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's still
Good
nebulous,
thing
but-
we're not there amini types who need hard explanations about things.
Where is Conrad?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Where is
Conrad?
what?
Just the
The cat?
title of this
Joseph
thesis makes me
Conrad?
so
No,
mad.
Conrad is
The cat.
the cat's name.
Oh,
Oh, where is he?
where is the
Conrad.
Conrad? Caleb's looking for Conrad.
He's around. He might be.
Oh,
you
you'd
guys
be
see
able
that-
to hang out
you
with
guys
him if
see
you
that-
came to the meeting.
That box, he might be in that box. That's his little house.
But anyone just watching on the internet will never know where Conrad is. You got to come here to find out.
You can call my phone and I'll give you directions.
Deep in the heart of darkness.
I feel like the Duel of Magic is I got Le Guin vibes.
Really?
I felt like a little bit of Glenn and a little bit of Vance, but
Yeah, there's definitely.
Is Kenny naked up there?
I don't think it's. I mean, maybe stylistically
I
it's
had a
Vance, but
feeling that
mechanically,
could happen to you.
not at all Vance.
Yeah.
no. I think that it's the interpersonal stuff that's a little bit.
Well, I
Vance.
forgot that he was here. I
wish I would have put it more specific.
Well, so before we get to the duel, do we want to talk about the pit that he was in at all? Is there anything interesting about that? I thought it was funny that he climbed up and it was like, yeah, then I felt sharp prodding at my head, and you just like walked headfirst into some spikes instead of like, feeling around.
He's like, I'm just
As
gonna go.
if you've never done that in a text-based role-playing game.
I'm just gonna go up
Fair
the ladder.
enough. Yeah,
Boing.
that's the pit, especially, and like leading up to having to sort of like unravel this sorcerer thing. This is why it all feels very like D&D campaign to me. Like, like you're trapped in the camp of the sorcerers. What will you do?
I fucking love it.
It's
I
fun.
love
That
this
doesn't
maze
happen that
shit.
much in
Gets
these
me
books.
so ramped when I'm reading them and like exploring a dark maze. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, get lost in that maze. You look around in that magic maze.
That's right.
Man, a
love it.
lot of Long Sun is a fucking maze.
Yeah, right. That whole underground.
So much, yeah. Long Sun. I
mean,
remember
it's-
being
Oh, yeah.
in the dark.
It's appropriate for someone so influenced by Borges to just build mazes into everything.
Yeah.
And he does that. The Severian's also like always in like a dark dungeony pit, or at least not always, but in.
He does end up in a
Severian.
lot of dungeons.
Yeah,
That's
really hot.
Can I do
very
help
true.
you somehow?
Yeah, either ones that he's responsible for or ones that he gets thrown into.
It is his natural environment.
Yeah, he's a dungeon boy.
In fact, I could argue that his
You just seem like you're having like a
autarky
problem.
Oh, thank
is
you.
a
Oh my
dungeon.
god.
It is.
Oh, this is
He's
so
trapped
good.
into the autarky. He's trapped into being the autark.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Autocracy.
Autocracy.
Autarchy, I think, is that doesn't
Autarky?
feel right. Autarky?
Autarky.
Sounds the best.
We like
Yeah.
autarky.
It's like a dookie.
Yeah.
Is that like some kind of bean?
What?
Excessive heat warning. Isn't a dookie? Isn't that a bean?
It's a piece of shit.
Dookie.
Adzuki.
D-U-C-H-Y.
Adzuki.
Yeah.
Shit, what was I going to say to you just now? It was going to be so good, and you'll never know.
Was it about dungeons?
I have no idea.
All right. Well, who cares?
But yeah, so I mean, he gets through this maze, or at the end of this chapter, he
he figures it out pretty good.
or at the end of this chapter, he's just climbing
He's in his
the wall.
element.
Are we talking about chapter
Yeah.
20?
Now we are. I think.
Yeah,
we're
that's
moving
chapter
towards
20 is
21.
where he gets
All
captured.
right, yeah,
figures out that
this is good. Hour and a half, and we've been at
2 hours.
halfway.
good, man.
2 hours and we're.
We didn't say anything about the hands on the breasts.
Oh yeah.
But we didn't start till 11.
That line made
Oh,
me
right.
squirm.
Which one?
You laid your hands on my breasts.
You really
That
liked
one.
it when you were touching my boobs the other day.
I laid your hand on my breast and you went as red as a berry.
Oh yeah, I
Oh,
feel
yeah,
like
yeah,
that's,
oh, yeah.
that's the most direct place where there's been an indication that he and Thekla were definitely fucking.
The first. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's been a
indication.
couple.
And-
but-
Oh,
there's
we
been-
didn't
yeah, there's
do
been-
that.
But this is the most direct.
Yeah, this is the most direct.
First
I feel like
direct
you definitely get that vibe. You're like, oh,
Right.
there's a
I thought
physicality to their
I thought we
relationship.
knew that, like,
We knew it.
in at the time.
Okay, so
We
he's
knew it.
So
but it
here's
wasn't like
it's
I touched your
speculative at
tit.
that point, but at this point she's like, I brought you here to sate my lust.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yet-
this is the
But-
first instance where they like talk about.
okay,
it.
so it's like two sentences after that. She says, "I think you're like you don't believe in me. Then I think you're right. I must be what you young torturers dream of: a beautiful prisoner as yet unmutilated who calls on you to slake her lusts." So like,
oh, so maybe she's saying that's just what you're dreaming.
yeah, it's
But
really,
there's the "I laid your hands on my breast" bit.
right, but
What was
who
that
is
about?
how much is
Right,
Thekla
oh.
and how much is Severian in these things? Like.
Yeah.
She comes out and says, we did it consensually, and then the next thing she says is like, also, this thing you're talking to right now is pretty much exactly the fantasy a little boy would have,
Right.
which I feel like calls into question that
What page is this?
on top of 112.
I think
And the line about the breast too is like sounds, I feel like the dialogue of a young boy's fantasy. I
Yeah.
laid your hand on my breast. No one ever fucking. I mean, even if it said, for a long time I thought about would I have liked this line better if it said tits, and then
Would have been weird.
That word doesn't exist in this book.
I know, that's the only problem. But this is...
I think he was
that's
trying
what
to
it is.
imagine somebody in his life saying it and how if like
Right.
Yeah.
But it's so like stilted and Victorian. I laid your hands on my breast and you went red as a berry, which also
Right.
makes me think an apparition, a fantasy is speaking now, not an actual lover of Severian.
Don't
They kinda
believe in me
talk like
then.
that,
I think
though.
you're right. I must be what you damn torturers dream of. A beautiful prisoner, as yet unmutilated, who calls on you to slake her lust.
Like earlier when we've been hearing about Severian and Thekla having sex like around the corner, it always sounds like it's probably not consensual, right? Like early on he talks about like her screams, doesn't he?
I think that consensual sex, when done right,
Yeah.
has screams.
Gross.
I mean, I think she was like, if I can get this little kid to fall in love with me, I can probably get him to like help me out. I mean, I think that
I think there's also an element of like, but I get what I want. I'm
Right.
at the top of the world.
right.
I don't think it's that far fetched too that she would just be like, no, I'm gonna fuck this kid.
Yeah. I mean, she is alone in a horribly depressing place.
Yeah.
And might be trying to manipulate him.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean, she's definitely doing that.
And she's definitely smarter than he is.
Definitely.
Yeah.
but
By
now-
like,
the
Yeah.
the more
half.
I talk about it
Doesn't take
though,
much.
the more now in my brain I'm just questioning that they were actually involved sexually. Like now that I'm thinking about it, like before I like.
I mean, there's a lot of
assumed that, but
he did a lot of
now I'm,
projecting
like,
regardless.
rethinking it. Because
Maybe I guess the point is that you can never fucking know. Or it starts one way and it quickly becomes another thing. And then like it might have always been that thing.
Like when I read this, I thought, "Oh, this is the first instance that describes them doing it." And now that I'm
Right,
rereading
but
it,
now
like,
it's
not,
a little
it's not
it's
exactly that.
Yeah,
it's not a wholesale
full
endorsement
like,
of that.
Yeah, it's like, here, I'm going to give you some what appears to be great information, but it is surrounded by red flags.
Yeah.
Just to throw out some chaff to make sure we don't get anywhere near close to something we can call the truth.
Good.
What if it's Thekla we're seeing Thekla's fantasy about fucking Severian that never happened because she wanted to and he wouldn't do it? What if that's because we're also in Thekla's head at the same time that we're in Severian's?
For sure, could be that.
So they're both just lying to each other, or
Who
they're
knows
both,
who's
they're
lying
both
and
just
what is
telling
truth?
each other their dreams. Yeah.
They're like Mulder and Scully.
There you go.
Will they or won't they?
Yeah.
Maybe
Also, this
both
goes to a point-
fantasies
this
are
also
also both
go-
true because
this
all truth is fantasy.
also goes to a point that if you have other people's psyche inside of your mind, that does not mean that you necessarily know everything they did, because you have their conception of their life in your head. And there's all kinds of things that Severian like blocks out, doesn't remember. Severian's the person who's supposed to have a perfect memory, but actually has a shitty memory, or less than perfect anyway. And most people have a far less than. I mean, personally, I forget so much shit.
Yeah.
So
Everything.
if you had my psyche in your mind, there would be lots of my life that wasn't in there because I've just forgotten about it.
Yeah, for sure.
So like that's important to keep in mind too. Like in context of what we were talking about earlier, like if you have all these people's in your mind, you know everything they did or whatever. It's like not necessarily true.
Well,
You have their ego.
You have a version.
Yes.
Of them.
Yeah, you just have their ego. You don't get the whole person. You get their fucking.
You get their conception.
Why do we think that?
Because
I kind of
Because I think it's like a personality. It seems to me to be like personalities and like conscious people. It's not like an abstract thing. It's like a person.
I gotta answer. Why do you think that? Because that's the only part of us that's actually separate.
separate.
Yeah, the
Oh.
egos
From
are
one
the
another.
egos are the thing that are separate from us. The things under the egos are not disjointed. They are continuous.
So my argument right now is the ego is the part of ourselves that we are aware of. So when we're looking at Thekla right now, it seems that she is just the ego because that's the part of herself that's aware of herself. But still, all the rest of her life could be in there. Just like things that we have forgotten can be remembered later on.
Right, are repressed.
Well, but
Everything that's happened to us is in our mind.
Yes,
we
like
just don't
it
know how to
could be
access
recalled,
it. Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that it is being recalled. Like You
Correct.
could, you could be kind of like induced to a recollection, I think.
Well, I think
but I don't think it's all. I'm just saying I don't think it's necessarily all just like in there. All the information is just in there.
And I think the key difference,
accessible.
Yeah.
Immediately accessible.
And I think the key difference, talking about this model versus you're talking about how this being a metaphor for the reality of us sort of containing everyone we know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the difference here is that when in a way we contain everyone we know, but we contain facsimiles of that. There's not if you were to say that you know me in a deep sense, it would be bad faith because you would be reducing me to your knowledge of me or your facsimile of me that is within you. Whereas in this case, there's an actual chemical personality that contains those multitudes within Severian.
I got a lot of problems with that, but we should talk about this when we get to Short Sun.
All right.
Why wouldn't we talk about
So
that?
2 years.
2 years.
We're kind of fucking
I'm not going to be able to talk about it without talking about
We're almost in the fourth book.
a lot of New Sun stuff, or Short Sun stuff.
Cool. Well, we'll stick a pin in it.
Yes, put it in the parking lot.
All right.
So one thing, I guess, in this chapter before we get to the duel, he lies to the sorcerer and saying that he got out of Thrax by magic, passing the post of the soldiers. And he says, what do you know of my powers? And they say that they're insufficient to free him. And I think in one way, his powers are just him being able to figure out that he's in a maze and not just in one pit. But there's this part where he's already bullshitting them. Right out the gate.
Yeah.
He's just I guess he's not necessarily bullshitting him because he does. He has the claw and he does all this kind of miraculous
he's
shit.
pretty self-conscious about this. He's engaging in a duel of wits, basically.
Right.
Exactly. Bullshitting well is real magic.
That's true. Yeah.
That's the way he's talking about. If you've walked far in the way, he mentions the way once in this, and I think again in the next chapter, and it's it is bullshit what he's doing, but he's also describing bullshitting.
And he's definitely going. He's I can get through this duel of wits. I can bullshit my way through this, and it'll work.
And if you bullshit well enough,
it works.
Then the people whom you are bullshitting believe it so much so that it is just the world that they're experiencing, which is as close to truth as we can ever possibly get.
Right.
Yes.
He later on he calls out that he lied. He's that's the weird part that I wanted to mention when we got to it, was he's it made me think of, to lie to those guys, it made me think of Master Malrubius and how he lied to us and how I hated him for being a liar, and I hate lying so much. But I think in this instance it was okay that I lied, even though I lie all the fucking time.
Right, yeah. I guess we'll talk about it when we get there, but it's something I couldn't tell if I hated lying because of Master Malrubius did it, or if I hated Master Malrubius because he lied so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Say that.
I kind of think that the idea that he hated Master Malrubius is a lie. He fucking loved Master Malrubius better than anyone else in the book.
Master Malrubius is the dude who comes to him to as the person he trusts.
Yeah, he's his holy guardian angel.
Yeah.
Right.
But a lot of times relationships with teachers and authority figures are complicated like that.
Right, and I guess I'm just arguing that the child who screams, "I hate you, Dad," at his dad is lying to himself.
Yeah.
Right.
Can someone real quick run down the difference? Is there a difference between an Aquaster and an Eidolon?
In this book?
In general, are they basically the same thing?
I want to look it up, but I believe that an Aquaster is an image projected in mist, and an Eidolon is a fantasy.
In your mind.
Yeah. Which one are you taking?
Aquaster.
Okay, I'll take Eidolon. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh my god, your chips got still fast.
Because it's so
the humid. You just
You saw some humid chips already. They've been open for a half hour.
These Rice Krispie treats are all just whatever. They're joining the mass consciousness of.
I find the Eidolon entry in this book insufficient. Sorry, Michelle or Michael.
Michel.
I always pronounce Mr. Andre Driussy's name as if it were just all French.
Yeah.
Why not Michel?
Because I think it's not. I think
but
it's
he
Michael.
has an A. Yeah, he has an A. Michel
Okay.
doesn't. I don't.
Yeah.
Think, I don't think the French version has an A.
Yeah, I think that's the
Yeah.
English.
Most
version.
people
So I'm sorry. I pretend that you're French.
Well, in some way, he
Is it the last
probably
name
is.
French?
Huh?
Yes.
It is French. Andre Michel. I call him Michel.
Mikhail.
Yeah.
Michael.
Is that more of a rice book?
What's this guy?
No, that would be Mikhail.
What's
It's
the
the
new
new
son?
son.
Alright.
Or what's shit? What's the Incan god that's attached to Apu Punchao? We talked about him the other two sessions ago, maybe.
Daryl.
It's Daryl.
Daryl. The
Daryl?
Incan god
The
Daryl.
great
Daryl, the
Incan god
local
Daryl.
Well, and then
acupuncturist.
under Eidolon it says "See Equaster."
Exactly. But like,
And then it
When-
says, "We are Equasters, being created and sustained by the power of imagination and the concentration of thought." The scientific term for most, if not all, of the Eidolons encountered in the Earth cycle. That's what it says in Equaster.
mhm. Yeah, both entries kind of just refer to the other one.
Lame.
This is saying it's the scientific term for Eidolons.
Oh, really?
Is an Eidolon like a type tulpa?
Yeah.
That's what I always think of it as.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like a what?
A tulpa? It's like
I think
the scary
you
thing.
said a typo.
Is it?
The typo. They
I think
make
she
it
said
right.
a typo.
It's a
All
lot.
language is typos.
Or tulpa's a type of eidolon, one or the other.
Yeah, probably that one, I'd say.
Like a tulpa is a specific recipe for
Yeah.
Anyway.
an eidolon.
But not all Eidolons
Okay,
are tulpas.
that was a
Right.
side note, so.
Okay, so dual magic then.
Page 21.
So he goes back to the little village. It's weird that they just put him in this maze and then kind of like walked away. They're like,
Yeah.
fuck it. I guess maybe that was. Does the one tribe like leader kind of say that was one of their like they were trying to do that, like give him this out? Well, I have to revisit it. But there's one point where they have this little interaction, and he's like, "Oh yeah, but we knew you were going to come back because we have the boy, so you weren't actually free."
Oh, well,
Oh,
when
yeah.
they say, like, we called you back with our magic, they were trying to make it sound like, oh, well, you're back because we wanted you to be back. Yeah,
right.
you got away, but you
Right.
didn't even
Well, it's
leave.
just really this like like back and forth duel of wits. I feel like
Yeah.
between him and this tribe, and
Yeah,
they're like trying to like one up each other.
Yeah, they're like, well, we
This
did that with our
little game.
magic. Like, oh, well, by the way, my magic is cooler.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Like how games of pretend would always end in my neighborhood when I was a kid. Would be like, I just shot you with my sniper rifle. Be like, oh yeah, well I have a helmet that
Right.
deflected the bullet. Be like, oh yeah, well I have a bullet that goes through those kind of helmets, and then like eventually just stop playing together because
Yeah, they're definitely
Because nobody accepts that the stack resolves in reverse order.
It's all nah, yeah, huh.
Yeah.
You're kind of like
I really liked this quote. There was something extraordinary about them all, but I was reminded of the bearing of exultance rather than of the hierodules I had seen in the gardens of the House Absolute. It was the carriage that the consciousness of leadership confers, even as it severs the leader from common humanity.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that he separates the hierodules, because he's saying like hierodules have like real power, and these kind of like human leaders have kind of like phony, pompous power.
yeah, they just have
and they
leadership.
carry themselves. Those types of power carry themselves differently.
Yeah.
I thought that was like an interesting observation that he made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's still kind of shitting on them.
Well, yeah, he's just
Yeah.
like leaders of men are
Yeah.
all. It's all in like your carriage and your kind of like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like you're separated from the masses. You know.
Only in your attitude.
Right. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not real.
Right.
Power.
But it's in your clothing and your sort of pageantry.
Did we all? Like, how long has this claw been in a sack of human skin?
That's
time.
yeah. I thought that was new. I was like,
that,
what?
I don't remember
called
where I read
manskin.
this. Maybe it was in the in here somewhere. But there was a thing. Maybe it was on a thing I was reading online. But it like apparently At some points, he refers to it being a man skin,
Mm-hmm.
and at some points, he refers to it being doe skin,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's a good possibility that the reason that that's happening is like another just kind of hint to the reader that Severian's like really unreliable and has a bad memory and whatever.
I
Can't keep his lies straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he says that in the beginning. I don't
mean,
even know how.
Unless
a
the
real
claws
life
like cause like some sort of transformation, but I feel like it's more likely that Severian just can't get his shit straight.
It's not like he's gonna be like, whoa, this used to be doe skin, now it's human skin. Maybe he would. I don't know.
It's usually when there's a miracle like that, there's a note of like it was this and now it's this, or and we don't get that as much with this.
Well, and the sheath for Terminus Est is man skin.
Yeah. And so I think it's sacred. And I think that they made the pouch from cutting a piece of it off, and he wants to lie about it. It's the story I've made.
Oh, you mean from Terminus Est?
Yep.
Interesting.
But there's a point at which he says that it's doe skin.
Right.
Which
That's
maybe,
when he's lying to be like, because I didn't fuck with this sacred thing, and then later on he forgets that he's not supposed to.
Exactly right. Yeah, he's like, oh wait.
This is like the end of this chapter. He levels up. He's like, he can now do the claw without the claw. And it's also the first time that I feel like he is just explicitly spouting Christ stuff out of his mouth too.
I mean, he has done the claw without the claw before.
Oh, but now he knows it now.
Right.
He knows it now. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that like, in his mind, he's leveled up. He's like, holy shit, I never needed to actually take it out of the thing. But then he's also like, I feel like on 119, he's like consciously modeling himself after the conciliator now. Which he's talked about the conciliator before, but now he's like, I do it the way he does it. And I feel like those things like are clearly tied together. Like his faith in the conciliator becomes his faith in himself. Because they're the same person. He's like,
or
he's on the precipice.
Arguably, he becomes the conciliator because of his faith that he is the conciliator.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Because
I'll buy that for $1.
Like Neo.
Right.
Essentially, anyone could have become the conciliator if they, right? Not anyone, but like I'm just saying.
It seems like there's a certain amount of like conspiracy around Severian specifically.
But like,
but
he's been like chosen for some reason.
It could have been someone else.
Yeah.
Right. It's like he's just going through this situation. He's just like doing. It's what it seems like is he's just going through the motions and doing the things that setting up the stuff that has to be done. Right? No, because he's like tested. It's like really specific. I don't know. I'm hot. I don't know. But this read through, I know there's like so many like little. Oh, I'm jumping ahead. Never mind. I'm jumping too far ahead. I'll talk about it later.
Well, is there anything about the actual duel that we want to...
It's cool.
I think we kind of talked about it earlier, like in terms of like, is it magic, is it not?
Do any of you want to play poker with Caleb on Thursday night?
Caleb!
I'm personally horrible at poker.
I'm not going to play poker.
The only card game I play is Magic the Gathering.
But yeah.
What about Dominion?
Ooh,
I don't know.
Dominion is fun. I actually play a lot of card
fun.
games, but yeah. Not poker.
Sorry, Caleb, you're going to have to fleece someone else.
I think we talked about it.
Cool.
I mean, it is cool how it, like his description of being under this like mental duress is interesting, where he's like hanging between like two suns and he feels naked with all these like millions of eyes watching him.
It's the last game. It says. Cool. It's the final game of poker, I guess.
What?
Yeah, you're a poker.
Before the new sun.
It's because Brandon bought a house and that.
Wait, but where is it?
Brandon Arnaldo?
No.
It's not far, but you just can't play poker in it anymore.
No, it's tiny.
They've been playing poker in Brandon's old house that he already moved out of a while ago, and now he's moving to another house that I think is like further away.
Oh.
Poker sounds complicated.
Daniel just bought a house, right?
The whole poker thing. It's
Jordan
a whole
knows
thing.
about it.
I know a little bit about a couple of years ago. It's Seems like there's always some fucking shit going on with that poker game.
People pulling knives.
Yeah.
Somebody pulled a knife.
Dennis.
No.
Dennis.
But
well.
Dennis.
Did that
So
forgot
people,
about that.
He
people
didn't pull a
pulling
knife. He didn't pull a knife.
No.
He did threaten to
Yeah.
stab someone and show them.
I think he pulled a knife somewhere else.
Because he
Oh
lost
yeah, because
a
I've
hand?
heard that he actually pulled
He
a
pulled
knife
a knife.
out, which could be a lie.
That was a different story, but it was around the same time.
Oh, Dennis. I invite him to
Oh,
any.
okay.
He's not watching this.
I have a book.
Sorry.
I have a book question.
Kinda do.
I wasn't really sure what he meant about this. He said, "What I was going to tell you was that the existence of that relic seems to have given some people the idea that the conciliator used claws as weapons. I have sometimes doubted that he existed, but if such a person ever lived, I'm sure that he used his weapons largely against himself."
Do you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
I don't understand. What he's saying.
Yeah, he kind of lost me there.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I mean, on a very, very basic level, he's like he's talking about it like the Christ figure.
Like sacrifice.
Yeah, and that like the Christ figure has like no interest in like conquering by force, and
Right.
in fact is like, you know, if someone wants to hit you, give them the other cheek.
Right.
And that like then I mean his great triumph is allowing himself to be killed.
So,
Right.
Yeah. So,
I think that's what this
Okay.
Yeah.
is happening
Yeah.
here.
Your track.
And like him coming to that conclusion is the revelation which gives him the power to use the claw without taking out of the bag.
But also, like, he's saying, like, okay, if he were to use such a weapon, but we know that he doesn't use such a weapon. That's not what the claw means.
Right.
The claw is just a thing that's shaped like a claw.
Well, it's not even that it's shaped like a claw. It's like it's got a.
But that's the claw inside of the stone.
Oh, which I've never thought about this.
Oh,
before,
I
but
was
that's exactly what the Pink Panther is.
Right. I was thinking that it was not so much like a thing encased in the stone, but it's a whatever.
Flaw.
Yeah, a flaw. It's a flaw
That's what
inside
it looks
of it.
like, but
Right.
it's literally
It's a thorn.
Mm.
Inside of the.
Oh, so it's literally a thorn inside. That's
Yeah.
okay. I did
It's a
not.
thorn.
Wait,
in the
have
gem.
you
Oh,
you
okay.
read
They
these
describe
books
that later.
already?
Not all of them.
I mean, like, have you read past where we're reading right now?
No, this is all uncharted.
Oh,
territory.
Really?
No, Mark.
Are you serious? I had no idea.
I didn't read ahead on
Right.
purpose. I wanted to
Wait, ever?
experience it. No.
Okay, cool. Yeah, right on.
I couldn't
was
remember.
surprised.
I
I've
thought
read
maybe you read
so
them.
long ago that I feel like I'm
No,
closer
I had
to you
read-
than
But
these
the
guys.
but the
It's
claw
newish.
is a thorn that is inside of the gem.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that yet, so now I do.
I had forgotten that.
In the Conciliator's time, that's definitely true. I don't know if it's true of the thing that Severian's carrying around now.
Yes, it is, because when Baldenders throws it and it shatters, he finds the little
Oh,
claw.
I didn't
Yeah.
remember that. Part.
Yeah.
And then
That's
he
it.
like, and then he goes and sits down.
That happens in this book.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then there's a claw
Can't wait.
stuck in his arm from the rose bush.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't remember this.
And he-
It's
like,
when he
fuck.
goes into the desert room or whatever, the sand room. He's in the place that is the sand room.
Mhm.
Are you guys
Later
ruining
down.
this book for me now?
Oh, you
hard.
shouldn't be.
I've been ruining this book for you the whole time.
Yeah.
I know. Spoilers are not
No,
something that I'm concerned
actually,
about. I'm
you're
just-
right, because we don't
that's why I
usually
haven't read
like go
it.
ahead and just say literally like, oh yeah, this is what happens. We don't usually do
Yeah.
that.
I feel like I have been.
I mean, I have no problem doing
There's
that
look.
ever.
There's been a certain amount of that, but like
Not
honestly,
much.
this book is so complex that like even like catching up to things
Yeah.
that we've talked before, I'm like still flabbergasted.
Yeah,
by
the
it.
only
So-
thing
The
that's-
plot is not what's happening.
yeah, the
Yeah.
plot is
Yeah.
what's
Right.
happening
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, the only
I don't
thing
think
I don't
you can
like.
get the plot at all if you've only read it
Yeah.
once.
I don't
Right.
think so.
Personally,
I think
yeah.
for me, the only thing I didn't like about knowing stuff that happened later that I hadn't read yet was that I would just be like looking for it. Like, oh, I
Right.
know that this is a secret. I'm just gonna be looking for that secret the whole time. When like that's just not how you should read these books at all.
Yeah.
Well, maybe, but like anyway, that's the only thing that it took away because I was like, oh, I'm gonna figure out this like secret that everyone like is aware of but no one's figured out or whatever. Like everyone has their theory about it, so I'd be like more looking for that than just like enjoying the book. And that's the
Oh,
only
I
thing that
don't
I
do
think
that.
sucks about it for me.
I've been
I still
enjoying
don't
it
do that.
immensely, even having some amount of foreknowledge. So
Anyway,
Wonderful.
bother me, no.
Yeah, I don't think it actually. I think
in
it's
this
impossible to
time,
spoil
the
it.
claw is a thorn. Still,
Okay.
Yeah.
is all I'm saying to Connor.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Because Baldenders throws it and it shatters.
Yeah, Caleb says it cuts his palm.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that.
Yeah, that's
when
what-
everybody was ganging up to yell at me.
That's how it becomes the thing that it is that it's Severian's blood gets on it or whatever and makes it.
And then who knows how it be? Then I guess he must bring it back in time later, and who knows how it gets put
When he's
inside
the
of him.
conciliator.
Yeah, when he goes back.
When he goes
Whatever.
back and becomes the conciliator.
Yeah. The end. That's the end.
The end.
You notice that there's Hebrew on this Pringles
Until-
can?
I saw that just a minute ago.
Nissan 3 when he goes
Good
back to the
culture.
Wild West.
Really?
But usually things that are in this country that are kosher
There's
don't have
dairy
Hebrew on it.
in it. Oh, maybe it's kosher.
Oh no, not Doc.
Dairy's
What's
kosher.
the doctor on fucking
It can be.
What is that guy's name in Back to
I
the
mean, it
Future?
depends on what it's.
Oh yeah.
What the other
Doc,
stuff that
just
it's
Doc.
Just Doc.
Well, dairy in and of itself.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
Fedora.
He must have a name.
What is the scientist's name in Back to the Future?
Dr. Emmett Brown.
Oh, Doc Brown. That's it.
Yeah.
I just called him Doc Cochran by accident.
Oh.
Doc Cochran?
Yeah, Doc Cochran.
Cochran.
Doc Cochran.
Yeah.
That's from Deadwood.
Yeah, Brad
Oh,
Dourif
okay.
from Deadwood.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Severian gets out of the sorcerer's duel. He
The
like,
fucking brain. Are we on 22 now?
Yeah.
I think. So.
Yeah, page 20.
Yeah, we're in
120.
22.
That second paragraph with fucking Deku-Man's brain hemispheres.
Mhm.
I really love this.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
cool.
that was cool.
This also makes me think of that William Blake drawing of Newton, like that, like Deku-Man is forcing Severian into like I feel like the view of himself of a materialist. Like Deku-Man's kind of like a materialist scientist. I feel like in this duel, who's got like a certainty that he is forcing Severian into, and Severian knows it's not good for him to be in that certainty, but he's sort of powerless to resist it.
Yeah. Interesting.
That like I like this idea that his hemispheres of his brains are these two suns, and the effect it has on Severian is to make him feel small and insignificant.
Yeah.
I guess I know astronomers who I feel like have that kind of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Like people who are like, I like hard science because it makes all the shit that happens on Earth seem so unimportant.
It's just nothing.
Yeah, which always blows my mind when people are like,
Yeah, but
'cause it's
they
like,
exist.
but no, I'm in a spectrum with these awesome forces. They're like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Part
I
of
can
that.
see how like what I do ends up being a part of that.
Yeah.
Like I just have, it's like,
Or people
it's
who are like,
Schenectady,
doesn't it make
New
you
York.
feel so small? And it's like, hell no. Like, we're like the most important thing that we know about. Like, more so
Yes,
than
like
some
our
fucking
lived experience,
meteor
like,
out
and
there.
ultimately
Everything else
these
is
giant
just
balls of
swirling
fire
colors,
have
dust.
like very
Yeah,
little,
or
like
interesting.
at
It's not
least
even in the air.
tangible
Yeah,
bearing
we're not
on
having conversations.
on our experience. So.
Mhm.
I mean, arguably they control everything, but you know.
Yeah, our perception controls them in some way.
Right. Well, it's like it's
You know?
whatever our interpretation of them is the thing that ends up being important. So
I just
go
think
for
it's this
water.
weird
You want one of
thing
these?
to
Yeah. Could you
Oh, I have
mind?
one.
to be excited that you're insignificant, which is clearly not true.
Women are plain.
People want to banish everything to outside of themselves.
Women are plain.
That's yeah. It is a shirking of responsibility.
It's banishing the universe to being distant and separate from me. And oh, look how unimportant. This can just keep going without me, and I don't really have any bearing on it
Right.
because it's so big and I'm so
right,
small.
right,
And it's like,
Yeah.
why would it work? That's
Put it back.
that's not a
Yeah, maybe
conclusion.
it's
That's a
a
fucking
refresher.
presumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of
Oh, man, that was so
existentials
fun.
like had that kind of like bullshit
was-
going
that
on,
was,
like
like,
the whole
night and day.
meaningless like Superman kind of deal. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's like you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, the existentialists were penned in by their presumptions. Like they lost the usefulness of this old way of like understanding value, and then rather than like I don't know, try to like reorganize the information they had, they felt like, oh, we have to go into a new darker void that a level of doubt that humans have never experienced before.
Yeah. Well, also meaninglessness frees you from morality. You know, and then
Exactly.
that like
A shirking of responsibility.
right, and then that's kind of counter argument, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting how easy it is to like advance the position that that we are insignificant and that it is dangerous to believe otherwise.
Yeah.
It is presumed, I feel like, by most, average punters, like someone who would ascribe significance to the human being is dangerous, which is probably true. I mean, I guess this book is about that being dangerous, huh?
Say that again.
The new sun, right, is someone who like, I guess all these people are watching the sun die, going, oh well, it's the end of the earth, and then the new sun is a person who's like, well, but no, it's not the end. You know, there's a beginning that comes after this, and if somebody has to go to a fucking other galaxy to get it started, I guess I'll go to the galaxy because no one else is going. Yeah. I mean, you just die, you know, like the sun goes out and you just go away, and human beings are extinguished forever if you don't think that we're significant. But if you do think we're significant, even the death of the sun is not enough to end humanity.
Right. Sort of against just sort of like global solipsism.
Yeah.
And that's really a huge, I feel like, theme over the whole book.
Yeah.
In terms of like science fiction.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways, isn't Severian falling ass backwards out of solipsism? He's had like every reason to take it up in his like specific training, and then also the bigger milieu of the world he's in.
The fact that everyone around him is conspiring to push him towards something. Yeah. I mean, that's solipsistic.
You're right, Jeff.
I'm just thinking about Long Sun and or not even necessarily Long Sun, shit that's in these books where the people, like in Typhon's time, when the kind of like great crisis happened in Typhon's time, a lot of people fled Earth at that time. And like so I'm kind of trying to square the reality that humans aren't only on Earth at this point.
Most likely.
What?
It's do we have hard proof of that? Or
Long Sun.
They're at least.
And we got Typhon's.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah. I was thinking only in this book.
But I mean, that's why I'm saying even within this book, like, at least in these books, it is stated that a bunch of people left. Whether or not they're still alive, maybe blah, 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 except Long Sun, we know they are.
Well, we don't know. I don't know that Long Sun takes place now.
But,
in fact, I always assumed that Long Sun was in the past of this book.
It's hard to know with the time with the space travel shit.
We just
where
saw
time
Typhon's body, right? And so we've seen Typhon's body at the end of our reading this week.
Yeah.
And so his ship couldn't have left in the future, right?
Yes, it could.
No. In the future.
In Severian, it's his ship left after Severian finds the two-headed body. No, his ship left before Severian finds the two-headed body.
Yeah.
The ships have gone, and
Connor's saying all that happened way in the past of this.
Yeah, Typhon's ship's leaving happened before Severian. That seems like it has to be true.
Yes, that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
Right.
He wasn't saying the opposite.
Space travel. Things could be possible that Long Sun takes place while this book is taking place, or that Long Sun takes place in the past of this book.
Yeah, but also like
I have another argument.
But also, so my actual question that I'm trying to get to, which I've never thought about before, is if the whole thing with the new sun is kind of like this Noah thing where you're like saving humanity or whatever, like, or what, you know, you're like the flood and then the rebirth of humanity post flood, and you're like the new sun is the representative of humanity, and humanity is being judged in all this, whether humanity is like ready. Ostensibly, humanity, the only part of humanity that's being actually wiped out is the humanity on Earth. And there are potentially people not on Earth who would be unaffected by the whole new sun thing. Yes?
Like it just happens and nobody...
Everybody on Earth has got to be affected by the sun.
No, on Earth, but I'm saying if they're...
Humans that are not on Earth.
Yeah, humans that are not on Earth are not affected by the whole new sun thing.
Yeah, what happens to people who are on blue and green?
Are they still being judged as the same humanity as the Earth people are?
Well, so part of what I wonder about this, and I don't know what the answer is like, is Severian standing only for Earth? or is he standing for an entire universe?
Yeah, I mean, that's...
And then in the end, like, is the universe of this book a universe that exists for anyone besides Severian? You know? Like, in the end, is the universe that Severian goes to save, or the world, to use an easier term, the world that Severian's going to save, that he's the new son for, it's just the world that is created by his experience. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Is this making sense?
Later in one of these books, either this one or the fourth one, he brings up like the whole idea of like philosophy being like created by the observer, which is some old philosophy that actually exists now. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, because that's what I believe. That the only world that we can live in is the world that is created by our experience. There is an objective world, but no individual human experiences that.
Yeah.
And through that higher vector, our individual worlds have commerce, but still...
What is the commonality in the objective world?
Christ.
Really?
No.
That's one term for it. Another would be like the material world, which is a thing that we can never experience directly, but only through our senses.
No. I don't. I think your whole way of thinking of it is just rooted in like super old school like ways of thinking about it. I think
like dualism?
I think it's the opposite. I think as like
I know that's very popular.
Humanity
right
is like heading towards like merging, and I think that's good. Like instead of like individuals.
I don't think I'm saying something different than you, because then there is also like demomorphs, like we all are joined in America, and this is why I say Christ. Christ, the whole thing about Christ is like, where two or three are gathered in my name, there I am in your midst, and that creates the church, who is its own entity, and then the church is part of the whole college of various larger demomorphic entities that makes up humanity.
And I think the idea of more recent like object-oriented ontology and stuff is more based on this idea of reality, of objective reality being a thing that exists and thing that is and like kind of a singular substance, at least in some articulations of it, like this being like whatever the blanket, and then our perceptions are the things that kind of lift out of the blanket and allow us to experience individuality as a component of this greater whole. And so our experiences of the objective reality are fully mediated by our perception of it, but that doesn't mean that it's not all one thing. Right. I'm just saying that like as we like evolve or whatever, like that like distance between individual perceptions of reality will erode. I think that's like in some ways like a function of empathy or of like and some of these
God
other
is love.
Sure, or in some of like even like thinking about what Severian's doing with this sort of like possible psi stuff, or like the way that Philip K. Dick was seeing like humans going into the future of like this sort of growing access to each other's individuated realities is what kind of ends up tying them all together in a way that maybe would mirror this like underlying singular structure that we're all kind of like manifestations of. Did any of that track?
I perceive it.
Okay.
I don't know
okay.
what
Cool.
you were trying to say.
I follow.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't hang with the idea that there's an objective substance that doesn't change, that's there on its own, independent of people, and we just can't ever really know it.
Yeah.
It's not that it's independent of people. It's
Wait.
People
can we
are...
just break this down a little bit? Like, can we just have like a basic version? Like, okay, like say none of us were in this room, but this thing was in this room. Like, would this Pringles can be here? Or, like, is that like, what we're talking about right now? Like, if no one was here to hear.
I think that's a really.
If no one was listening,
I think that's a really reductive.
Sorry,
idea that this is
He asked for a reductive.
No, that's
this
right.
is indisputably real, I guess is what the question is, right? Is this indisputably more real than a feeling or
I think
perception?
it's real. I think it's here. And I think, remove or because we're here and we made it and people made this and that and we're all we might interpret it differently, but as time moves on and as we evolve, ideally we will interpret this less differently and ideally come to see it as the same.
And understand it as a part of the same continuum that we're existing. Like physics and like sort of molecules and everything being this like continuum that manifests in these more like individuated ways, but is ultimately singular, like a substance. That everything takes in.
Another part of my argument.
You'd be into this. This is early modern shit. Spinoza.
Another part of my argument is that real and unreal and existent and non-existent exist in a spectrum that they rely on each other.
Yeah. I mean,
so
it's a
if this
philosophical
exists,
difference,
okay, but it also relies on the versions of it that don't exist.
I just think it gets dangerous when we start breaking down interpretations of reality, because that gets us away from addressing reality.
Which is why you should go through years of training before you do it.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Can
the
I add something?
No!
Yes.
Don't listen to
Wait,
Connor.
can you come
I said,
in,
oh.
can you come
Oh,
in here
I think
where
you said
people
no.
can hear it?
No.
The Buddhist philosophers have this pretty fleshed out in ideas of relative and absolute reality. Those are the
Right.
two things that they talk about. Where it's like obviously everything that is happening is happening right now, but simultaneously there's also this absolute reality where like everything is one big kind of love force, basically.
Right. It's like there's a version of reality that has utility. Like our understanding of objective reality, regardless of its like truth, is more, that's great. No, that was a really good helpful thing. Is like regardless of its truth as this kind of like objective separate thing from ourselves, it is useful to have that view in the same way that I don't know. I think that a lot of like more kind of from like the 80s on, like sort of postmodernist philosophy is like this idea of like, okay, like we can understand like this sort of like overarching oneness or overarching meaninglessness or whatever, but that doesn't absolve us of our responsibility to a shared reality that we're kind of experiencing together, because there's utility to that, and that's what allows us to create these like strands of empathy that that
I
pulls
feel like
closer
we've
together.
already had this conversation in this club.
Oh, and we'll have it in many more times.
Because I was like, oh, and this is a thing I tried to convince Jason Willett of like 100,000 times.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but
so
he's
it's like
somehow immune to it.
So it's like like you're saying, understanding like an absolute and a relative reality is important, because like you can't get lost in this like vast sea of like potential meaning and potential oneness or everything, because we still have to exist as if we are individuals and as if we are operating in a world that exists external to our senses.
Until further notice.
Basically.
Until we figure
Right,
out.
until we can get away
But
with
then, but that's like that
way.
function of empathy is like growing our consciousness together to develop the understanding of reality away from that fully individuated consciousness into something that is more representative of an absolute reality.
Sure.
Was
Said really well.
Does
Mark.
that
Really well
The
spoken.
thing I would say is that, like, in this incarnation that we're existing in the relative reality, if all of a sudden we were, like, immediately able to perceive the absolute reality, with, like, the way that our mental processes work, it would basically be like we were completely insane or, like, schizophrenic or, like...
Or poets.
Right.
Well, I think the absolute reality might not have anything to do with substance, and that's part of the reason why we can't get to it, is because substance is not part of reality.
Well,
or it's a more true substance than could exist in the reality that we experience.
So, like the Aztecs put dynamism before stasis. They say that the real thing is the forces, and the like momentary entrapment of forces that you see are the not real things.
Substance, I think, is a little more general than like objective material. It's at least looking at it in this sort of like Spinozan idea. It's not that it is like it's not that it is material that exists separately from force or from thought. It's that force and thought and material are all bound up in this like singular substance. Mm-hmm. So it's like everything is contained within it. I think even, this might be contentious, I don't know, but I feel like the idea of like matter and antimatter, like those are both contained within substance. So you have like both the material and the lack of material creating the absolute reality of this, like, you know, sort of whatever blanket structure.
So a thing about what I've been talking about is that because of me living the way that I've been talking about, everything that everybody else has been saying sounds like my philosophy to me. Just like I've been able to take the 10 dimensions of string theory and The Secret and the Celestine Prophecy and the Bible, and it all sounds the same to me.
Yeah.
Because as I come to understand what it's saying, I'm able to graph it onto what I've been saying.
Yeah. There's all the paths lead to the same
mountaintop
truth. Yeah, well, even in Kabbalah, there's this idea that, like, there's the way to the divine or whatever is like a tree, and like there's all these different branches of the tree, mm-hmm. and there's all these different kind of like methodologies of getting to that point, and none of them are any less real than the other one. But
each
it's
and
like
every person is a shining star.
Yeah, but a lot of times, your access point to it, the easiest access point to it, many times is like whatever you are culturally brought up in, because it's like the language is easier or whatever. Mm. But none of them are any more like in Kabbalistic mm-hmm. thinking. It's like any other religious or philosophical like branch into the trunk of the tree is like a legitimate branch.
What if speaking of trunks, isn't this the three guys touching an elephant?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know that one.
Yeah. Now I have to go to the bathroom.
Well, and I actually thought of that earlier when you were talking about
the Blake. But it's funny because Severian, later in this book, Severian has this whole thing about...
he's looking in between his feet, he's bent over.
Severian has this whole thing about there being three gods, and like the philosopher's god, the poet's god, and the like normal person's god. And then
it's also the three sages tasting the bitter thing.
But Severian's like, who says they're all the same god? He's like, who says all the three paths go to the same place? Which I think is interesting.
It is. Severian is so trapped in his own head.
I mean, I don't agree with that. But yeah.
I really got to go to the bathroom.
Okay, good. Go to the left.
Knock.
Yeah, I know this house.
Okay. Kenny might be naked.
I said knock.
Sometimes Kenny's just naked all the way.
That's a great way to be when you're home.
Yeah.
I've been doing that a lot more.
But I mean, even when people are
real quick,
they might walk in on you.
Real quick, housekeeping. What are we? How much longer y'all think we got in this? I'm coordinating a rally.
We've got two more.
I think.
Do we want to?
I think no more than half an hour.
Do we want to wrap up and try to cover this, or do we want to?
That's a possibility. I think we could go. I think we could go another.
There's some great
20 minutes
stuff. Okay, maybe we.
But maybe we should just stop.
I don't want to just skip this stuff because it's so.
I mean,
good.
I can't get a ride here like immediately, so it's not a big deal. I just wanted to like give a realistic time frame.
Maybe we could do one more chapter. Maybe we could get through the cursed.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say let's just say we're gonna wrap by 2. That's fine.
Okay.
Like let's stop before he hits Typhon. Let's leave Typhon. Let's leave chapter 24 for next time.
Yeah, we'll just do all the Typhon stuff next time. That sounds good to me.
Yeah.
So we only got one more chapter.
So okay.
Yeah,
so
can
just.
Get through.
But also, I wanted to ask:
or we could just stop and keep talking about what we've been talking about.
Well, until the long one gets back.
The long one.
Book of the long one.
Isn't part of the reason? I guess, of my understanding of Kabbalah, part of the reason it works to have all the roads go to the mountaintop is because I feel like Kabbalah is pretty explicit that the only way you can ever talk about the ineffable is in metaphors. Every single religion is a metaphor
Yeah.
You know, like that's all you've got.
Yeah.
But can I just be like a killjoy to this direction of the talk though? Like, it's like religious texts and like ways of thinking about things are like fun and interesting, but that ideally we want to be like moving away from these sort of like attainments of I don't know.
Yeah, I think
that's what I think.
Moving away, you mean like becoming less primitive? Is that what you're talking about? Moving away? Like as we get smarter, we leave behind Bibles?
Yes.
But I think that all texts need to be
Sorry, I said I was being a killjoy, but
I just don't see how this is one.
Yeah, no, and I love it, but I'm just saying, like, you know, if we're talking about these like grand ideas and stuff, like, I feel like it's not helpful to reach back and look at like spiritual ideas about things. Like, I feel like new paradigms of thought will be different than what we're rooted in.
What's like a better thing?
I'm not sure.
Because like going from what Ryan just said, I think it's like
what did Ryan just say?
About symbols.
Here's
like,
the thing: when all roads lead to a mountaintop, because all the roads are metaphors.
Okay,
right. None of it is meant to be like
when people
overly concretized, and that's like the anti-Armini like whole thing. And that's the reason that we're anti-Armini.
And I think
it's like, and it's the reason.
I'm sorry, Mark.
I'm not.
Literalism is destroying what's good.
Well, it's the reason that
this is true. I still feel bad.
I'm not saying
literalism is poison.
It's the reason that like people misuse the Bible because there's this idea that there's one meaning of the Bible and like it has to be mediated through.
That's not what I'm saying.
I know that's not what you're saying, but I'm saying that like all of those things that you're saying are primitive are actually highly advanced, but they've just been misappropriated by primitive thinking people. Yeah. And it's not the text itself that's primitive. The text itself is like beyond our ability to grasp.
I wonder if you're fetishizing old stuff.
No, because I'm including this shit in it.
I think having a better understanding of old things allows old things to be new paradigms.
To me, it has nothing to do with whether it's old or new. It just happens to be that people don't write that many things that are like this now. But I don't think it's because it's old. I do not fetishize old things. I do not fetishize old things.
It's because it's deep is why you fetishize it. Not because of the age, it's the depth.
Well, maybe old, but the whole aura of spiritualism.
No, because this is one, and this is a fucking sci-fi book.
And I think...
I think it's like...
What do you think is a new idea?
Where would you go?
You just set up this amazing thing where if you get rid of the bad influences of the past, truth will spontaneously emerge in our view.
Not necessarily, but it will
I don't
change.
think that's what he said.
I think that
what you're saying is like you gotta. If you throw away the old books, then you'll be able to better see the truth.
Not throw away, but I don't think we were having a bigger conversation about like material world, and I'm having a conversation about evolution with myself, and like, but like that. I don't know. We're gonna have to move away from thinking about like spiritual. Like when you go back and say like, oh, the many paths and the attainment of spirituality and understanding of things like through like whether it's Christianity or Buddhism or they're all the same thing, but we will have different paradigms beyond.
So I think there's this scientific this idea.
Yeah, and those will be fine
there's
too.
A replacement.
They're all going to be the same, a different version of the same thing.
And there's a scientific dogma.
The new version is also a branch of the tree.
That's the weird way of looking at it. That it's going to be the same.
That's why I asked what you think a new idea is.
I think that if you went and talked to someone from like the old days and like had a conversation with them, it would be like talking to an alien, like because their minds were totally different, and that like 2,000 years from now, ideally, if we like do a good job of living, it'll be completely different.
Have you ever read The Sorrows of Young Werther?
The text will be different, the paradigm will be different, but the meaning will be the same.
Wow.
Is what we're getting at.
Yeah, and it's a tough conversation.
And I think that there's room.
I kind of agree, but it's a philosophical.
I think that as science advances and gets away from a dogmatic understanding of reality, of saying that the science that we have now is I think there's an issue of saying that the science that we have now is the clearest version of reality that we have.
For sure.
Because I think
say that again, please?
there's a problem with saying that the scientific version I think that's a problem because it is a very narrow. It's a very narrow view. It's
disproved by examining the history
of a large problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when you take science or physics or whatever as the be all end all of reality, you're making the same mistake of that someone who has like a fairly like limited and cursory knowledge of the Bible is also making when they say this is my metaphysics, and so I think that as science progresses and as like other both hard science and soft science, like understanding that psychology is not necessarily functionally separate from physics, like as that moves along, then there becomes more room, I think, for spirituality in a sort of like overarching understanding of experience, more so than trying to understand an objective reality. Understanding the sort of diversity of experience is all integral to an objective reality that we're kind of all experiencing simultaneously. So I don't know. I think that religion gets used as a tool in some bad ways.
Right.
Clearly.
Yeah.
But so does science. I think that and it's a mistake to take...
The church did never drop A-bombs on anyone.
No, they had a crusade.
Yeah, they did.
I think they could have.
I don't think those things are equal.
I think they would have if they could have.
So they didn't. They didn't.
I think if they were in power
But they did.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
That wasn't a bomb.
I don't know that we can say that.
I mean, I think it was maybe in the end the same thing, but it wasn't. It was not an atomic bomb.
I think if they had them in the Crusades, they would have used them.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well,
I
so
don't know.
in any case,
but also the Crusades were about land. They weren't about religion for almost anyone except like the smallest guy.
That is true.
So in any case, when science or religion becomes a political tool rather than a broader interpretive structure for understanding, then that's the problem with it. That's the primitive thinking that you're talking about.
Yes.
When you consolidate power with it, as opposed to liberating individuals.
Yeah, and I feel
Do you ever listen to Richard Dawkins?
I don't think so.
Listen to Richard Dawkins and then come talk to me about science.
I wasn't even talking
scientism.
about science in the first place.
No. I didn't mean to sound as aggressive. I've been mad for 3 months.
That's okay.
Mad for 3 months.
Dawkins is great. Dawkins is such a clown.
Such a tool.
And he's such a clown. It's so good.
I'm not trying to shit on any texts or religious experiences or anything. Like I totally am into.
I am trying to shit on the idea that scientific progress is a linear path upwards.
I don't mean scientific.
Or
I just mean
or that progress is even the right word.
In order for me to express myself, I have to reduce things to simple, like very simple terms. And I think that things change, and that ideally I want to encourage change, and that will look different.
But change isn't unidirectional.
But I also,
change isn't forward.
That's fine.
But I also think that
I think change is ideal.
But I also think that it's just a misnomer to say that you would evolve beyond the Bible or whatever,
that's the philosophic difference
because the way, for example, this group is using the Bible as a tool is very different from the way, basically anyone else.
And there will be new Bibles, we're still living.
This is a new Bible.
Yeah, it's funny to talk about the Bible as if there was one.
Right. Yeah. It's even
we have to do the utility thing.
Well, I mean, even in
there's
King James version, we talk about stuff that's still in Greek.
But I'm just saying, I think it's a misunderstanding to say that you because even if you did evolve past needing the Bible or whatever, anything that you would use toward that end would be the same thing. And that's what we're trying to say, which also includes new things that are better, which is one of my constant arguments for science fiction as a genre of a tool for thinking is that it for me, for example, I'm not a Bible scholar. I mean, I grew up Jewish, so I have a certain knowledge of the Old Testament or whatever, but I'm not a Bible scholar by any means. And to me, the texts of this book or even like a goofy ass person like Philip K. Dick or like Le Guin or whoever, like those things to me are all getting at the same meat as what the Bible is getting at, but it's easier for many modern people to digest those texts than it is to digest a text that's written in a really old way of like writing that was written ostensibly for people who had a slightly different like paradigm or whatever,
and had specific like historical political things going on.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So to me, like, I just think but I still think that the content is essentially the same because it's not really like content. It's all
like
metaphors. It's like pathways.
It's continuous.
Joseph Campbell kind of.
It's the continuous development of interpretive structure.
Really important.
Let Mark finish.
Oh yeah, you're making me nervous, dude.
Connor needs to talk.
I was just gonna say it's like the continuous development of interpretive structure, and that's never going to stop. And there's no end point because you can't have an absolute interpretation of anything. I mean, unless you're Mark Aramini, apparently. So.
Have you read Canticle for Leibowitz? It's about a post-apocalyptic future where a guy finds an electronic schematic and makes an illuminated manuscript of it, and it's clearly a fake Catholic kind of thing, which is able to completely jumpstart culture. I believe twice. I've only read the first book of Canticle for Leibowitz. So my argument is that true advancement is a better use of the Bible and realizing that when you attribute meaning to any text, it becomes a Bible.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
Well, I feel like that's ultimately the function. That's ultimately the function of my specialty is fiction, so I feel like that's the function of good fiction is to create an interpretive framework that you then as the reader can insert yourself within, and it's not your interpretive framework, so you're then being forced into a separate understanding of a reality, and that's what's important in like building empathy and growing together as a culture.
For our situation where we are right now, for sure, as humans, that's great, but right where we are right now. But remember earlier when we were talking about like fair and like analyzing like media narratives and everything? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Really, we're going to have to start breaking out of narrative thinking eventually. I don't know what that's like, but that's going to deconstruct, in my opinion.
Well, wait. That's a big fucking thing. Eventually, we have to leave narrative behind.
Wait. I have something to say about that, which is, I agree with you about that, but also I think that that's the point of I think that like thinking of this book or the Bible or whatever as a narrative is like as limited as incorrect as it's like you have to adjust your stance to it, because what it is like a tool and like a kind of like doorway or a pathway or whatever. It's not like about the narrative. And so it's similarly to the way media uses narrative to like is the same thing as the way people use the Bible to constrict thinking. And the point is that it's not the text or the event or whatever that's making that happen. It's people being constricted to not like think critically about things, but it's not like the thing itself.
Yeah, to take an interpretation as objective reality is a fundamental mistake.
Right.
Like,
so
a literalist reading of the Bible is as big a problem.
Exactly. I agree with you about what you just said completely, but my point is that it's not like the book itself that's doing that. It's other people imposing their will on other people.
I would say
and that if used properly, information or narratives, whatever, can be used as a tool for liberation rather than a tool for oppression. Absolutely. But it's about your positioning towards it.
But we might move beyond it having to be a narrative. like a reality might become, and it's scary to think about, and then it would mean sacrificing things we love, like stories. But, if we are to stop having problems and conflicts, we're going to have to stop telling stories.
You're gonna be a zoanthrope.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking about. Is taking that.
So
part
I
I
think
think
just
so.
a philosophical.
So I think that
Sort of.
that's one way to think of it, but the other, like, sort of the other side of that coin is rather than ceasing the narrative, like ceasing telling each other narratives, it becomes less about doing that and more about understanding the sort of collective narrative pool. As
You guys read The Telling yet?
No.
Every single meeting it's relevant. Every
Well, I gotta
meeting
read
it's
through
relevant.
Connor's story before I can read anything.
Oh, and I
Yeah,
was about to
I'm
ask you
doing
if you've
that
seen
too.
Twin Peaks: The Return.
I haven't.
Oh my god.
Every meeting, that book is relevant. Every single meeting. You guys really should just read it next week. It would be really easy.
Two
It's
babies that need
relevant
to come out.
every time.
The first one is that
I'm just rapping.
it's interesting to frame it that there needs to be like
No, I
a
like it.
diminution of narrative and not just an elevation of
actual
other
thing
forms.
there, too.
Like,
That's
I don't think you have to
like
scrap
big
narrative
thing.
in order to get more out of images.
I think the crucial thing is to start understanding narratives that are external to your central narrative and viewing their validity. And even if they're not necessarily as valid or as useful as your narrative, being able to consider them on the
And
same
find
level
them. Yeah.
and find them and
Yeah.
incorporate them. And I think we see that some here too, like with the Jungle Book Romulus Remus story, or like a lot of the stuff that Wolfe is doing in those sort of fables that he shares is this sort of like this pooling of narrative and drawing from these different things and considering them in both like in opposition to and in conjunction with each other. And so I don't know. I mean, like as a fiction writer, I'm pretty dedicated to narrative being an important thing. But
Absolutely. You're talking to
obviously. But I think
narrative.
that's the. I think that if you're taking an objectivist tack and saying like there is a real world that we are all able to access and able to participate in, then if you're thinking in that direction, maybe narrative is a problem. Like the narrative is a problem for that.
If you have
model
a hierarchy
of reality,
of truthness,
exactly,
like
exactly.
how-
But
the hierarchy of-
Truthiness.
who
truthiness.
describes the
But-
objective
but if-
reality best? They're on top, and then there's a slightly less. Like if you're organizing narratives in a big stack, then yeah, you got a lot of problems.
Yeah, that becomes very.
But we don't
difficult.
need to do that.
We don't.
I mean, we're not. This book forces us not to. Do that.
But it's tricky because there's the relative reality, the utility reality, where we do have to grant some kind of hierarchy to narratives. But I don't know. It's a very weird parallel that you kind of have to live on as someone who's more willing to kind of get loose with it.
Is
do you-
somebody texting in right now?
That was Caleb from a while ago. He's
Okay.
eating now. But do you fuck with alchemy at all? I feel like it's a really awesome lesson in what you're talking about. In that, like, for quite a long time, people had and of course Newton was an alchemist who was still working on alchemical developments up until his death.
Would blow off physics to work on alchemy.
Yeah, and for after the Enlightenment or whatever, people were like, look at these idiots, these primitive idiots who are trying to make gold out of shit. But they were off, and none of them even use the same terms, and they don't have the same process. Every single fucking alchemical treatise is like different than every other one. And then in the last century, a bunch of people were like, oh, because they're not talking about stuff. They're talking about psychological states. This entire body of knowledge is all psychology. And then everything in it begins to make sense. The differences between each treatise make complete sense because they're about individual psychology. And then, so you get we have this bunch of words that apparently in the past were really important to certain smart people, and then spent a couple centuries being considered total gibberish. And then only recently coming back to another look and being like, oh, if you don't take any of this literally, it's actually really smart.
Yeah. And you're already into black metal. You're like halfway there. So.
Yeah. And then it's like the same, all the problems I feel like that real world problems that reflect poorly on Bibles are almost always a matter of someone taking it literally. and saying like this rule means I got to do this right now, and you, if you stand in my way, well, the book says I got to do it.
Right.
Which is like
and if you don't do it this way, then you're like not your way is incorrect.
Yeah. And that's death. That's the rigor. That's the text becoming rigor mortis. Like it's no longer alive, which is what a Bible. Like the whole big point of a Bible is that it's alive.
Well, I mean, even down to the fact that like there are strains of thought. Well, first of all, the Torah, written in Hebrew, every letter is like packed with meaning. Mm-hmm. Like the letter itself, you could read a whole book on each letter, the symbology, what all's going into that. Then you have the fact that there is like a strain of thought that the way the Torah is written, which is a scroll, and if you have ever, which I'm probably the only one in this room who's ever like been up in an actual one, the word spacing is very weird. You have to know before you go to read it where the words end, what the words are.
And there's no vowels. No vowels, yeah.
All of that. And there is a strain of thought that in, like, within another paradigm, like, the starting point would be in a different place, and the words would be all, like, reformatted, like, the spacing between the word, and the whole entire thing would have a completely different, like, meaning.
Are we talking about Tamara? Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
The combinations Pi, the movie Pi, where switching it all around, but every letter has to be in every place.
Yeah, I don't remember what that's called. Anyway, a lot of numerology, also because all the letters are also numbers.
I found an awesome gematria site. If anyone wants to do the gematria. I didn't really... I thought gematria was totally annoying until I found this one website.
That's the word I was thinking of.
Gematria?
Yeah. Gematria.
Yeah. Gematria?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
And I think there's another one that's changing all the combinations.
Oh,
where you're looking for the name of God.
Right. Yeah.
The site that I found, this is really cool because it you give it a phrase and it gives you the numerical quantity of that phrase based on the letters, the numerical value of each letter.
Yeah.
And then it gives you a huge list of searches, of internet searches that also have that same value. Yeah. So you're getting things pulled from a list that's like constantly changing and just based on the whims of other people who have been searching around to the same time as you.
Yeah.
It's fucking amazing. I mean, it's like the most fun I guess I've ever had with a web page that's kind of random and also not random at all. It's really neat.
Send the link out.
Yeah, I will. I'll put it out on our.
Yeah, I mean, every word has a numerical value, and a lot of times, are you raising your hand or are you just stretching?
I'm just holding my hand in the air.
A lot of times there's like really interesting things where like words that have opposite meanings have the same numerical value. Like this kind of, there's like a lot of that going on.
It's gematrix.org. GEMATRIX.org.
All right.
Oh, Gematrix.
It's really cool. Yeah, I really
What is Gematrix?
What is the Matrix.com? Well, I think we probably. I don't think we're going to get any more into this book today.
No,
that's okay.
We should start on 23 when we come back.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
These are big chapters we're sidling into.
Yeah, we should go through.
We should give them what they're due.
25 to.
Yeah, we get all into Typhon territory
32.
now.
Yeah, starts turning.
I'm excited about Typhon.
Yeah, I love these chapters. Yeah, the Cursed Town.
And there are
the corpses. Yeah.
Some of I feel like these
there's
chapters I blew through in a way
chapters in
I hadn't so far.
The book. So alternately, we could just go through 30.
So that we don't overextend.
So that we have 8 in the last one, and then actually that would make 8 in this next one, incling these 2 that we're skipping. Yeah. Or that we're going back to.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you guys want to do that.
What are we doing?
Wait, what's the number?
I'm saying if instead of doing instead of including 23 and 24 and then going 25 to 32 like the next 8,
Yeah, let's just
then
go.
we
go
could
to 30.
include those
Do
in the
8,
8
okay.
and only go to 30, and then the last section has 31 to 38.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna reread this
we are
chapters
reading
anyway.
through which chapter?
We're doing 30.
30.
Or 23 to 30.
Which chapter? was in
23 to
book 2?
30.
23 to 30.
3 to 30. Okay.
I just finished
So
this
2
book, so
30.
I'm going to go on to the...
We stop reading at the end of 29.
No,
No,
go
30,
at the end of
through
30.
30.
Yeah,
Okay,
through 30.
gotcha.
And when are we gonna do it? Yeah.
When are we going to do it?
Next weekend!
Next weekend's busy. We got
The weekend after that!
wrestling.
We do have
I'm
wrestling.
busy. I'm busy the next, not this coming weekend, but the next weekend.
Okay, so the one after that.
Yeah, that
So
I
we're
could
looking
do.
at
11?
the 11th.
Hold on, I'm not on my calendar.
11th. 11th?
Sunday the 11th.
I think I could do that.
How's that with you guys? August the 11th.
I like Sunday the 11th.
Sunday,
The
August
weekend
11th.
after that is bad for me, so that would be ideal for me.
I would text Emma, but I don't have her number in my new phone.
Yeah, August 11th is fine.
Same bat time.
Thank you to anyone who has read any part of my story.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I
if
haven't
you
had time
have, if
to
you
yet,
stopped
but I
for
will.
any reason, I want to know the reason too. Like, I
Yeah.
want
I
any
haven't
notes
sta-
you have.
I haven't
Time.
started yet. Caleb said he was going to make notes.
I would love.
I've started it, but I'm moving very slowly through it.
Yeah.
I'm half.
I imagine that it's a slog. I imagine. I have no idea.
Let's workshop. Do you want to have a separate talk about it?
I would
I love-
any way that people want to give me notes. I'm
Yeah,
totally into. If you
totally.
want to have a private meeting, if you want to have a
I
group
think
meeting,
I think
I'm
that
down.
you would
Just
probably
talk about it.
benefit from having a group, like, kind of critique of it, because a lot of times having that discussion kind of brings out a lot more than just the individual edits on their own. So.
I am grateful for any information and will get it in any way that it can be given.
Yeah. I'm always down to talk about someone's writing.
Yeah, totally. Well, let's go ahead and put it down for what, 10:30 on August 11th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm sending a thing to the email list so we all have it in our email.
Thank
Oh,
you.
that's
Great.
great.
Do you do
That's
your
great.
tap water or do you have a water?
There's a filter out in the corner here. Are we going back to the Mercury?
I guess it won't be occupied.
Yeah,
at that
it'll
time.
be-
It will be. There was a party there the night before, so it might be.
And there's a
gross.
show there the night of.
Okay.
Oh yeah, did you guys resolve whatever that?
Yeah.
So we won't have to go out early, right?
No.
No.
It won't be that early of a party.
But just figured I asked this time.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So let's shoot for the 11th, 10:30 at the Mercury.
Great.
Cool. Well, Madison is apparently waiting on me in her car, so I'm gonna go ahead and leave.
Okay. Yep. I'm going to make myself food for the week.
Hey.
I'm
Wow,
going
that's
to
smart.
the fucking river.
Ooh.
That's
smart.
To a van town.
I would love to move to a van. At this particular moment in time.